Right, we are live. What's happening?
Same old stuff. Just another fresh week we've got going here.
Right, we are live. There we go.
The patented echo intro.
Gotta get the echo intro.
Yep.
Buying collections over there, you were saying?
Yeah, I bought a pretty good collection recently. Just came in today from somebody I've known in the hobby for quite a few years now.
Nice.
They reached out to me. Always good to get that get those deals from personal collections like that.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I haven't bought any collections in a while. I've really probably been buying too many like small things that I just want.
It had been
being patient for those bigger collections.
It had been a little while for me, and this one found me. Like, I haven't really been looking too hard. I do want to get back to looking at eBay at some point. I really haven't been very much at all.
Sure.
But yeah, it's nice when they come in.
If it makes you feel any better, I've seen just nothing, like no good collections recently.
Oh, really?
For eBay, at least.
I like buying whole collections too, because you really get, like, sometimes it's a very specific theme. Sometimes someone was a very specific seller and they're selling you their whole thing. But a lot of times there's a pretty good diversity. Like, I've got just some celebration singles, which I loved celebrations. Actually got the gold cards. A little bit of a spoiler for a video that's probably not going to post for another week to my YouTube. Your card here, the lenticular deoxys.
Chill it.
Sealed in its half deck.
Bump the lenticular.
And then just a handful of different Pikachu promos that I was around when these things were coming out, and I just was like in my English set territory.
Yeah.
So I wasn't making plays on these as they came out, but I was there seeing them come out.
Yeah. I went after them a decent amount. I remember when Scott talked about the Uniqlo, and I definitely, as soon as he talked about it, I already think I had a couple, and then I like made sure to complete the full set immediately and then started buying a little bit more. Yeah, I think those Pokemon Center promos are cool. And really they're fairly affordable. Like, even now they're not like, yeah, if you're gonna get them in PSA 10, they may cost you, some of those may cost you $100 to $200 type thing. Like, you can get some of those in 9 and like $60, $70. At that price, it's like not even about investing necessarily. It's just I can see why someone, like, it's a nice, cool kind of like collector item in that value.
Yeah.
They're cool cards. There are a lot of them, and not even just a lot of like each individual one, but a lot of variations. They're going to definitely keep making more of them, but I think they're cool. And I like the Pokemon Center logo on them.
Yeah. Yeah, they are a cool release.
So as people start to come in now, I'm with my buddy and my partner Dan here. Yeah, we're just going to hang out tonight, talk about the market, answer some questions. If other people want to come on the stream, Dan and I'm sure Dan's up for that too. Later on, if people want to join and hop on, if anyone's feeling like talking about anything. But yeah, feel free to start asking us questions. Overall, not sure too much news from me. Anything going on with you, Dan, on your channel? Any news to break? Anything you're seeing that's kind of standing out to you?
I felt like getting in with the recent modern investing chat that people have been making videos on. So I'm doing the YouTube thing and talking about like the hot topic. And of course, I put, what was my video? My title today was something like my thoughts on modern Pokemon investing and some of my modern purchases. 1 out of 10 video, rocket to the moon. Just, you put investing in a Pokemon title and it's going to do well.
Yeah, that's definitely a keyword to include if possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
business has been pretty typical. I get the question a lot, like, how's sales volume? I'm such a small seller overall comparatively that, like, my personal anecdote, I'm not sure how meaningful it is. But if I had to say anything, my eBay felt like it was slowing down a little bit. A couple other platforms that I sell on, if anything, are maybe a little hotter than normal. So like some up, some down, overall relatively average. I do periodically do like sales on my eBay. So I did like a 15% sale off everything. I had a pretty solid weekend given that. So yeah, some up, some down. I'm pretty happy with where the market's at.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I find the most interesting trend right now is some of the disappearance of like WotC first edition PSA 10.9 stuff. I feel like there's less of that. It'll be interesting to see how these trophy cards do on Heritage. Uh,
Yeah.
just kind of gauge like what the depth of the market is. I've been hearing from different people, three people actually in the last 2 weeks, a couple of things that I've been asked not to kind of say exactly what, but like new kind of high sales on certain like pretty niche, trophy cards or trophy type cards. So it's interesting, kind of, if someone wants it, they'll pay a really, really high price for potentially the only one known or one of the only ones available, on that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Definitely following crypto quite a bit, and seeing if some of the stuff going on in crypto is going to affect the Pokemon market or sort of what that correlation or relationship is like. But yeah, I think I generally have the same impression that probably overall volume is down a little bit, continuing to maybe go down. Um, but generally prices are kind of remaining steady with some new highs and other things slightly going down. I think generally speaking, the stuff that's going down is the stuff that more supply is hitting the market, and the stuff that's just like having a lot of auctions all at once of something, which is just like a freak thing potentially, or stuff that um, uh, oh, I forgot the third point I was going to make. Oh well, probably wasn't that important.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of my general take on that, and I think it's unclear to me, is that because a lot of these items are really finding their ways into collectors' hands, or if people are less wanting to sell at the prices at this point, and the people who did want to sell already sold, or if there just aren't buyers, and so we're because there aren't buyers for these cards. People are sort of giving up, maybe not listing them as much, maybe not wanting to throw them in auction because they're worried they're not going to sell well. And if that third one is the case, you might see some prices continuing to go down on those types of cards. But if I had to guess, I would say it seems a little bit more like the first couple. I think we already saw a lot of our losses, before kind of December in this market versus the stock market and crypto being hit more over the last month.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we get like a broader stock market, a prolonged downturn. I mean, it's come down quite significantly year to date.
Yeah.
If that continues on over the next 6 to 12 to 24 months, something drastic like that, if the bottom still has 10, 20, 30% deeper to go, nobody knows. We had that crazy thing about 2 years ago now, the like COVID crash where it dropped 20% ish. And then in the matter of like just several weeks, it was back, which was crazy.
Yeah. Um,
I'm gonna head into some questions. I do see some rolling in now.
yeah, I do too. Just taking a look here. Thoughts on Prism Sealed Ass from 1997?
I don't have any. I can't even think specifically which one that is.
1997 Prism Sealed S. I believe, yeah, that is, I think you're talking about the ones that BGS grades only, but I'm just double checking. They're the ones that, see if I can show you a picture. I can send you one in Zoom. Actually, you can look it up on eBay too. They'll come
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I do. I see a picture here.
Yeah, I don't have too many thoughts on these. I do see PSA has graded them now. I don't think they used to.
Do you want to share a screen so people can see? I know I'm bad at that,
Uh,
talking about something and then,
I have
or
a
if you
lot
want to
of
give me,
stuff up. I'm worried I would show something that I shouldn't if I.
if you want to give me permission, I've got
Oh,
a tab that's like isolated and I'm terrible with a million tabs too.
I think so. I'll make you host. Hopefully that doesn't shut down the stream.
Yeah. um, so is this the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I did when I was scrolling. Yeah, there's a PSA. Let's see what the cert is because I'm pretty sure I only ever saw these in like Beckett cases before.
It's a 4 cert. So that was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, so they've been doing it for a while. Yeah, I missed the boat on these in terms of being aware of what was going on with them. Honestly, after like the 1995 like Top Zone, 1996 Bandai, 1997 like Monster Card S went up a lot. I stopped buying this era too much. My thing is just like how much supply is there, how much will it trickle out over time. Part of the reason a lot of these cards became really valuable, not necessarily these, but like your Top Zone, is because of like the super low print runs and the difficulty to find. Sorry, not print runs. The super low pop reports and the difficulty to find like sealed product, and then the amount like Japanese sellers were asking for their sealed product, and then the difficulty to hit each individual card, the difficulty to hit like the prism cards, which were pretty expensive, and then obviously like your blue back was a bit harder to find a little bit than your green, although there's a bit of argument that that might not actually be the case. It might be more just that the blue back is the first printing and then the no number blue back is the very first printing. So with these, I have a completed set of these in a binder, but I don't have any graded, I guess, just to tell people. I think they're cool. And I remember wanting like there were tons of these types of sets, and I basically wanted to get like at least one of each complete set, but I went like heavy on trying to grade and get a complete like PSA 10, PSA 9 set of the Tops and the Bandai and the Monster Card S in part, because that is what PSA was grading at the time. And at least that's what I thought they were grading at the time. Maybe they would have graded this all along and I just didn't know. And what else? They were just my favorites. But these are pretty cool. What do you think of these, Dan? Just looking at them, do you like them?
They look fine. I'm not too in love with them, honestly. Like they look neat, but a lot of the other ones do too that I still haven't gotten into either.
Yeah.
I started English set cards and then I branched out into Japanese promos, and this is a fair bit more exotic than I've quite gotten into.
The ones that have the like they have like Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard on the same card, and then like Squirtle or Turtle Blastoise on the same card. They're part of this set, I believe. I think those are pretty cool, and I've seen those around for a while. I do think those stand out as unique because it has all three of those Pokemon in each one, and it's a prism, and like the art style is pretty cool. And then the prism style on that card is the same like prism style from the earlier Bandai sets, and also like the Tops and Versus, which is a cool set. I really like that set a lot, actually better than this one. And I don't know, PSA never graded that either. I'm not sure if you've ever seen those. The Versus cards, they look like they have the same, the hollow versions have the same prism as these, but they look like the Game Boy game, like two Pokemon fighting each other, the way that it looks in the
In a
Game Boy
battle, yeah.
I'm not sure if you've seen them.
I don't think I've seen those.
Yeah. So, I expect these areas to kind of fill out over time. And over time, we'll sort of see, does demand stay pretty high for these? Does demand continue to grow? Does it waver? On the supply side, I expect supply to continue to grow for all of these as long as price grows on. I don't think that these are, even close to fleshed out. And I'm sure there's quite a bit of this sitting in Japan that people own and they don't even know that it's valuable, or they have no idea that they could grade it. They don't know that that's like a thing. So, that would be my, be careful, I would say, heavy speculating on this type of stuff, but it definitely could work out. And I do think that there's, potential, still some potential, probably upside with it. But I would say more risky than more established like English stuff, or even more established like actual TCG Japanese stuff.
Yeah. Infinite War asks, I have an English Umbreon and Leafeon VMAX alt art. Do you guys think I should sell them now or hold for a long time? I guess my initial answer would be, do you enjoy the cards? Is this purely an investment question? If it's a collector's question, it comes down to your enjoyment. Is the market currently valuing them more than you do? If so, then that's a fairly easy answer for me. Sell them, trade them in for something else you'd rather, given the price point as a collector. If it's purely investment based, that's a tougher one. It's an age-old debate of like, they're printing a ton of product right now, everything's staying mint, pop reports are going sky high, they're going to continue on higher as cheaper grading becomes available. Is the demand going to stay high enough to maintain all these prices? Because those cards are cool, very, very cool, but like next year there'll be more cool cards, and the following year there'll be more, to the tunes of billions and billions more cards every year. So that's a tougher question, speculating on future value.
Yeah, I think in the short term with stuff like that, there's quite a bit of momentum on those cards, and so they could end up continuing to go up right now. I do think that once they hit some sort of plateau, wherever that is, I would expect it to go down from there for a while, or just remain the same as more supply hits the market. The supply demand fundamentals are not, the supply fundamentals are not good on a card like that at all. So
yeah, because these are likely getting reprinted. That's a constant thing people are talking about on YouTube right now too. It's only a 8-month-old set or so, and the boxes are at 180. If Pokemon were to print it tomorrow, if they phoned into the printers, however long that would take to happen, that product would be instantly sold out to their distributors, who would then instantly sell it out to guys like me, guys with distributor access. So that's very low hanging fruit if Pokemon were to just want to turn on the money printer.
Yeah, I mean, and I would tell you, like, if you want to speculate on those right now, I would sell the PSA 10 and then use that money to buy some raw ones and then regrade those and then sell and rinse and repeat while there's still like quite a bit of margin. Like, that's honestly what I would do if I wanted to actually engage in it. I think that way you're cutting your risk a lot.
Yeah.
And you're probably both gonna make a lot more money and cut your risk at the exact same time, to be completely honest with you, on something like that. So another thing you can do, right, is sell it, buy maybe a couple of 9s, sell it, buy 1 9. Maybe that cuts the risk a little bit too. I think the people are way overpaying for the 10s because it's very easy card to grade in 10, but again, these are just my opinions. At the end of the day, it's, there's only whatever there is now. When last time I looked, it was around like 600. It could be up to 1,000 by now, a week later or 2 weeks later, given how many are being graded right now. But like, if that number stays at like 1,000 to 1,500, that's not that much for like such a popular card in Pokemon right now. Probably, I think if that card gets to like 4,000 or 5,000, one thing that is kind of an interesting thing to think about is sort of what happened to the, we're in a different period of Pokemon, and demand is much crazier now and higher, but what happened to like the Mega Charizard full art from Evolutions. So when Evolutions first came out, that card was actually the chase card that everyone wanted, and people were paying very high for that, and were buying it for quite a lot of money. I think that was going for like $200 to $400. There were even some sales at $400, which at that time was hugely high, because we're talking about like the Crystal Charizard and PSA 10 was like a $2,000 card, and this card was selling for like 400. 2 to 400, and then people realized that card was actually super easy to grade. Unlike earlier XY sets, the full arts were like really hard to grade. That card was like super easy to grade, similar to this Umbreon. Very, very easy to grade. Then there ended up being like 2 to 4,000 in the pop report, a year and a half later or so, to 2 years later. And and then it went all the way down to $50. And so until the recent like Evolutions jump in the booster box and the price of all the cards, the card went from like 2 to 400 down to $50 and like sat there for years. And then once the boom happened, it went back up to 200-ish. Now I think it's come back down again, maybe. I'm not sure exactly where, because there's just continual supply just crushing that card. Now, there might be a lot more Evolutions than this set, to be honest with you, ever printed. And the difficulty to pull this, I don't know the difficulty to pull this compared to that card. Given the amount of alt arts in this, I imagine it's probably harder to pull this card. But very easy to grade. This is an Umbreon. That was a Charizard. It was the first, full art, full art Mega Charizard, for what that's worth, whatever that's worth. Obviously, there's a full art Charizard in Flash Fire before that was very popular, but there's just a lot of historical examples of where like it's just hard to like beat supply, and supply can just really all of a sudden you can just see a nosedive. And you also don't know how many like investor speculators are like doing buyouts right now and flipping this price up. And so as soon as the price starts going down or stops going up, all of the investor interest is going to leave this card. And when that happens, that could also take quite a bit of the price down. But as I always say, when there's a lot of momentum and heat on a card or a booster box or whatever, the price could always double again before any of what I'm talking about comes to fruition. And that's just sort of the gamble and risk you're taking, is nobody knows, how hot and high it can get in the short run. Something like this is more likely to probably go up than a lot of other cards, just, in the short run, just as it's probably more likely to go down than a lot of other cards in the short run. I think overall it's more likely to go it's not going to be, I would not expect like a solid linear growth on something like this for the foreseeable future. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like the 10 rate on this card.
Yeah.
You're talking about over 80% 10s, and the volume of it. I mean, look at all these auctions going off nearly every day almost.
Yeah.
And the prices over the past 2-3 weeks, in spite of daily auctions, the price is gently ticking up. Definitely a lot of demand out there for it.
That's definitely what I've been seeing. Like every single sale price is like a little bit higher. And when you see that, that's a really good sign that it's probably going to keep going up until all of a sudden it stops. But when people start losing auctions, they start getting more desperate. They start bidding higher and higher, and it starts to ladder up. And now I don't know if there's any other card that is laddering up right now like this. And that should show you the huge demand. Do you know of any, Dan? Like, I don't follow everything close enough, but
I don't either. I don't know.
To have that be enough supply, enough demand, and enough interest to kind of continue to ladder up like that is and maybe people in the chat, if you can give us other examples. I mean, I'd be interested to see like what are the alt arts like in Sun and Moon, if some of them are following a similar pattern right now. Yeah, because you also need a lot of a card actually being auctioned in order to see that type of quick laddering. So it's interesting to see. We saw so much of that during the bubble and boom on everything, particularly vintage for a while.
Yeah.
What are you looking up here?
Looking up the Rainbow Charizard from Burning Shadows.
Oh, the Burning Shadows one. Yeah, that one's been
Been
um
choppy.
yeah, I've seen some low sales and then some bounce back to like 2,500 was sort of like the what's it at now?
Looks like 2,800 the last couple,
Yeah,
25, 28.
I in my head I feel like it's about a $2,500 card now, and I've seen some 2,000 sales and then some slightly higher sales. Not
Yeah.
seeing what's reflecting in this chart. I don't use Poké Data. I should.
I've been using it more lately. I like it. It's pretty intuitive navigation and all that, and it's pretty clean looking.
Is it? Have you found it to be very, very accurate? Have you been like checking it at all off of sold listings?
It's it feels pretty reasonable. I've definitely found outliers, just bad data that gets brought in by those like scam listings on eBay. But
Yeah,
generally speaking, I've been pretty happy with it since I've been giving it a shot.
yeah, it's an unavoidable thing when you're just scraping data.
Mm,
Uh,
yep.
so yeah, so Infinite War. So like at the end of the day, like that we're not ones to tell any individual what to do and don't know what your specific connection is to that card. But that's sort of how we would think about it for ourselves. Um, so hopefully that's helpful. I wouldn't like stress too much. But like it depends on your situation. Like if that's like huge money for you, then maybe it's different, right? But like, I would be I wouldn't be shocked if that card falls down to $300-400 over the next 6 months in PSA 10, from that 750 to 800. Wouldn't be shocked if it stays at 750 to 800 for a while, and also wouldn't be shocked if it ticks up to like 800, 900. I would be very surprised if that got over 1,000, but it's not impossible. Just with like it kind of slowing down. It's just not really pushing. So much supply is coming back and it's not going up quick enough that I feel like that's going to happen. But you never know.
Yeah.
Um, Aiden M says that the US dollar has been holding quite strong. Yeah. I've been hearing that from people who are trying to buy from other countries and saying that it's rough right now because the dollar seems to be relatively strong to some other currencies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I follow on a daily basis.
As far as to why that is, I think when when the market is in fear, and I'm not an economist by any means, but when there's fear, people flock to like safety. The reserve currency of the world feels fairly safe in times of uncertainty.
Yeah.
That's a very oversimplification, I'm sure, but
Then why aren't
what do
they
you,
Bitcoin the future
oh
reserve?
yeah. Or
Yeah.
what was that one, Terra or whatever, that stable coin that just
The whole
blew
Terra
up?
UST
Yeah.
situation. Um, yeah, we were talking about that a good amount last night in the Discord.
Yeah.
A wild situation. Blazer Up says, "Do you guys think that the Logan Paul box break will cause another boom?" No. What do you think, Dan?
The only way a base first box break is going to make any big noise substantial is if like a BGS 10 black label Charizard comes from it. And even that alone isn't going to just rocket emoji all of Pokemon. Like it would make waves and it would be big news, and Gary and Logan Paul and like
Yeah,
they would probably put out a 7-figure offer on it. But that aside from that, it's not going to do a ton. I don't think. The packs are sitting really low right now on Golden, and I hope they go up higher because I don't want to buy any.
I really still think the most important thing right now is supply. I think demand is going to be fairly constant over the next few years, if I had to guess, and that supply is going to be one of those key thing to look at. Personally, I would lean towards supply. Whereas the last few years have been very much demand driven.
Yeah.
Uh,
Alan Porter asks, if you started investing with $1,000 today, how would you allocate it?
What do you think?
Assuming that that's meant specifically for the hobby and everything else is fully taken care of. Like, that's the thing with any financial question. There needs to be like a baseline. So no outrageous credit card debt, no things like that. Everything else in a happy place. I think the best way to go is just buying collections, some mix of, I mean, generally speaking, even though grading is in a weird place right now, still $50 just open to the public at PSA. I'm fairly optimistic that the next round of lotteries will start somewhere between the $25 and $35 per card range. And $1,000 doesn't leave you a ton of room, but you can start looking for, especially now, like the market's fairly soft. The broader market is quite a bit of fear. You might be able to scoop up shockingly good value in $300 to $600 like collection lots. You might be able to get $1,500 of value. I see periodic people post in Discord, post different places. Hey, look at this lot I picked up. TCG player, total value, $1,500. I got it for like half that. Or so I think just buying into mixed collections and then trading up from there, grading the hits if any of them are there potentially. If not, even just arbitraging. I mean, and that's talking more like a job than solely investing, but that's at the end of the day, that's where most of the money comes from. Most of the money's made.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, let's putting aside like buying under market. I'm going to try to answer it from a purely like, okay, I have to buy something at market just to
And then
change.
hold it.
Like, completely disagree with you. There's no reason to buy things at market if you're trying to maximize. So you just have to be patient and wait for the right deal. But let's say buying actually something like at market, let's say, or around market.
3 UPCs
for 1,000 UPCs. You know, and then the next thing is like, what type of time, you know, horizon are we looking at? Like, if I'm investing this, am I investing it for 5 years and then I'm going to liquidate everything and then we'll see how we did? It's tough because I like am buying stuff and I don't want to tell people exactly what I'm buying, but how do you, I always like, I want to ask you that question if that ever goes through your mind, or because you're just constantly flipping and reselling it, like doesn't matter as much for you showing like exactly what you're doing. But
I think that it's such a big market and I'm such a small chance. Like, I don't think I'm going to create enough competition for myself that it will matter. I'm probably transparent to a fault, and maybe I have at times caused myself more competition and hurt myself in some way because of it. But
yeah,
to me, like, I mean, I posted a modern video today showing exactly what I bought last week in modern. Nothing too exciting, but like Pokemon Center ETBs, the celebrations ones, felt like a reasonable buy for me. That's partially, some of it is like platform arbitrage, just seeing that what they're going for on eBay versus what I've sold a couple at on like Troll and Toad or elsewhere.
Yeah.
So every aspect of what I do involves like that selling thing. Like I made a video months ago. I don't invest in Pokemon. Like I don't really, very rarely do I buy something. I'm going to definitely hold this for 5-10 years. Everything is for sale pretty much all the time.
All right. I'm going to say middle generation Japanese holos and Japanese secret rares from Baiyi. I'm going to say that I would buy those. I would resell and flip the ones that unfortunately were not meant, that you hoped were beauty goods, but ended up not being beauty goods. And then I would keep the other ones and wait for prices, I think, on PSA to come down and then grade them and just hope that the prices do come down on PSA within the next year. And that would probably be, we're talking like a 3-year, maybe 3 to 5 year time horizon. I think you're going to then be able to list like pop 1, pop 3, pop 4 cards that you're buying, good, really good looking Japanese holos that you're getting like $1 to $3 each, maybe, or one, you know, and then if they're more popular Pokemon, maybe up to $10. And then if you're talking about, you know, secret rares or, you know, level X levels, maybe a little bit, you know, maybe $20, you know, a little bit higher. I think you're looking at probably making some really good return, probably. That even if the Pokemon market stays just about the same as it is right now, I think you do pretty well. Because I think that the low pops on those, the legwork it takes to actually find the good ones, do the effort and the work of like finding the actual good ones. You're using your skill to actually grade the right ones. And then you resell, the ones that just don't make the grading cut, and and you could probably make more money selling it on eBay or depending on how you stage the lot, then oftentimes things get on Buyee. So that's what I would say.
And in the end, you ended up cheating a little bit too, like I did, talking about a fairly active
Oh,
undertaking.
true. I did. Yeah, I can't do that. Right.
If you want the like, I guess I'll come back to me.
True.
If you can only simply buy and then hold for 5 years, whatever the timeline is, I recently just finally set up, like I've never ordered directly from Pokemon Center Japan, but I recently set up a Tenso account, and I ordered Sword and Shield Precious Collection, I think it's called. Pretty cool binder, pretty cool Pikachu promo.
Yeah.
I would buy like very specific modern releases. If we were making this video 8-10 months ago, I would say I would buy the ultra premium collection at retail, cheating a little bit because like on the secondary market, it was never retail. But I would say like I would sign up to email lists, and when it came in stop on GameStop, I would try to beat the bots. So buy like the really good ultra modern releases at retail right out of the gate. And I think you'll do well generally. In hindsight, it's easy to say ultra premium collection would have been one of them. Evolving Skies at 110, 120 would have been one of them. Pokemon Center ETBs for celebrations, and
because all of my things that go like, because the other thing is like buy CGC 8.5s and then regrade them with PSA, but like everything is like all my things are like buying under market somehow or getting around. Okay, if I was forced, I'm not allowed to do any trick. Like I'm forced to just buy an item and then sell that exact same item. I cannot grade it. I cannot do anything. This is not what I would do, but I'm going to go PSA 9 first edition WotC hollows. There are a bunch that I think are good items. I think they've come down quite a bit. I don't think that they're the popular flashy item right now. And I think that some of these items from $50 to $150 is just really, really good value. And I would, I love those cards. I'd feel great owning them, but I also think that they're solid. I do think that your answer is better, but I also think it's kind of cheating, in the sense that like, yes, if you can get like the short printed modern item from your distributor and then it really goes to retail at like 150, sure. But I don't like for me, I think that the better investment would be the WotC 9 first edition hollows than buying that already higher price on any modern sealed Pokemon item or any item, but barely. And I wouldn't do either. Like, to be honest with you, I would do more of my shenanigans. Your margins are going to be much, much better buying large collections. But we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all if modern sealed product does better than these WotC first edition PSA 9s. So it's not something that I like have any sort of strong conviction on, one way or another. I think both have their pluses. But one is highly dependent on reprints, depending on your time horizon. And the other is just a lot more steady and probably not going to be too affected by insane increased supply. And that's kind of what I like about it. And just, I think that the prices at this point, mostly, again, I do like the CGC 8.5s much better that you can regrade, because I'm buying them at like 50%, some of them, but you have to look though, because some CGC 8.5s are garbage. Some of them are like PSA 7s. So you don't want to buy those.
What do you want? You want sub 38.5 million cert range, I think is the
sweet spot. Yeah. So, But I really want to underscore that, like, I don't believe, like, I don't, this is not Jake from 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago would have said, like, been like, I can't believe these cards are all so cheap. I don't feel that way, about this market. I feel like there's definite upside when you're buying $50 to $150 WotC first edition holos if the Pokemon market does well in the long run. But I don't feel, buying those at $15 to $25 was, at the cost of grading, just felt insane. Now we're sort of pricing those cards. These are mass produced set cards, and we're pricing the card itself at $30, $40, which, when I compare it to, other hobbies, it seems more reasonable. I think if they get up to 300 again, where they were at the height, that seems like a lot for this stage of amount of people in Pokemon, amount of generations, and amount of money. Like, I would want to see like a bunch of 20, like, I want to be like 40 and see a bunch of 20-year-old YouTubers talking about like WotC and investing in vintage. Like that's the type of stuff that I would like to see to feel more comfortable with those. Like Trainer Max in our Patreon Discord says, like he thinks, or thinking that he thinks, or other people, like some of these ideas that all of these cards will be over $1,000, like these $50, $100 cards, in the not distant future. Like, that's the type of thing I'd like to see before I really bought into that or felt very confident. So, and that you only see with time. I can't be confident in that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to add to any of that, Dan?
I mean, even I guess the answer that you gave, these things don't have one fixed market price. Like, you'd be buying those things at auction, you'd be looking for the cleaner ones. So it still is a much more active investment style, because buying nines right, a nine on any given month might fluctuate. Say it's $875 one day, it might be $150 the next week. You want to be buying towards the lower end of that range, and you want to be buying towards the higher end quality of the nine, because long term, getting back into the cheating side of it, is a lot of nines can become tens one day. A lot of nines do eventually become tens. But that's more the active thing.
I mean, depends on the value. So, for example, like when there's very high value cards, that's true, because the amount of money you can possibly make to regrade it is huge.
Yeah.
But if the amount of money is not that great to regrade it, and you have to pay to regrade it and then spend time and energy, like a lot of these cards, like when we're talking about the cards I'm talking about, like they're going to have to get to much higher prices for lots of people to be cracking these things, in my personal opinion. So it's not something that I would, whereas you have things like some of these trophy cards and you have like 16 nines and 3 10s, and we know that like 9 have been cracked, like 9 of the 9s have been cracked. It's like, so it's, where there's just such huge percentage gains if you can manage to get that 10.
Yeah. My chat jumped to the bottom, and I think I lost a bunch of the early chat on my phone.
Blazer Up says, how do I know that he's seen other YouTubers say there's going to be another mania phase after Logan's box break? I mean, I certainly don't know anything more than anyone else knows. I just, I don't understand, why that would be, because I just think that, his involvement is, it's already built in, and his audience has been saturated with Pokemon for years. I'm not sure why him doing another box break is going to get it in front of, I'm sure every time some new people come across it, probably. But you have to think of like what percentage of the new people who are just going to come across that are actually going to start to buy, or actually going to get engaged heavily and actually have any sort of impact on the market. Also things tend to get priced in already. So like him announcing that maybe people, there was like some people who felt a little bit better about buying again. Oh, well, at least Logan Paul's still in. So that gets priced in like immediately, well before the event actually happens, for like the people who are already here, who have confidence, in Logan Paul, or think that it matters. So.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the Orlando Collecticon $1 million box break, and there was a Charizard pulled there. I was at the one in Vegas. It's like these base first edition box breaks are happening every couple months, it seems, and each subsequent one you've got less people to reach because every prior one had reached some amount of new people. So I saw somebody in chat, yeah, Ryan M says the Logan break is a case of like diminishing returns. Each successive one just has less new people to reach. And then going back to that original one, the major hype one, or I can't even keep track of how many he's done now, but it's summertime. More people are getting out and about. The whole pandemic thing is cooling off overall. So more people are just out and not having their eyes on the screens and going to be watching this particular one, if I had to guess.
Will Chairman says, question for Jake and Dan. What do you look for when speculating on promo cards? Rarity of where the card comes from, uniqueness of promo art, Pokemon and promo card, etc.
All.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Right? In your question.
It's each one, I guess, is weighted slightly differently, maybe. You give me a Charizard or a Pikachu, though, something like that. You're talking about just a really popular, generally pretty liquid species. And if it's going to be like a unique art, Japanese only, you're pretty sure it's not going to come over to the US. The more of those boxes you check, the better it is. And that's pretty much what it comes to.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be risk that the Pokemon Company reprints or does a lot larger prints of certain cards than we think. We've seen that happen. I mean, Pikachu on the ball, like those on the balls are a great, fairly recent example, of cards that were just selling for an absolute fortune. And then a lot more were given out. People thought just the kids got them. And then it turned out like coaches and tons of staff got them, and they might print more, I've heard, and print them completely again and hand them out at a whole nother thing, the exact same, so it's, I heard estimates out there initially. People thought there might only be 100, might only be 500, might be 1,000. Now there could be 50,000. I mean, it's really, who knows? Before, not right now, but when all is said and done, in terms of maybe them using it for a long time. So it depends on your risk tolerance. So something like that could be like a great opportunity if you decide to go into it, but you also could end up like losing quite a bit if you go for like an Illustrator Charizard, for example, where it's like probably a lot less upside because there's so many of them. But if you get them like really cheap, and particularly if you're pretty early on and you can grade some for a cheap price and sell into the market early, like you can make some maybe more reliable, solid money, on something like that. Predicting the next screen promo, or like, will there even be one in this type of market with the amount of like demand? Like, I feel like things get so hot so quickly that I'm not sure that a card like that in this environment could stay at $10 and then all of a sudden shoot, 3 years later, shoot to 1,000 or something. But not all of a sudden. Those did, fairly steady growth over time, with a huge bump with the boom, like everything else. But it's just, but you nailed it. I mean, those are all the things that I'm thinking about, and I'm, weighing them all out, and then, deciding on what mood I'm in.
Yeah, the thoughts. I actually have a video that I've already recorded going live Wednesday talking about some big modern misses in like Japanese promos. And then I followed it up with a big hit. I went heavy on the Scream promos, and if and when the next Scream promo were to come out, and maybe we saw it to some extent with the postal ones, the stamp promos, it's going to be like, if it's too obvious, like Mario Pikachu, if that were to come out today, if something's so obvious, if they do, I guess, like Link Pikachu. They do like a Zelda promotion thing.
The thing
If
is
that were to
that's
come out,
terrible speculation, right? Because the price might be so high out of the gate, and then
yep,
they print way more. So
yep,
that's part of the problem, you know?
yeah, like everyone will know it's gonna be the next one, so then it won't be.
Yeah.
Because instead of being able to buy PSA 10 full art Mario Pikachu's for 100 or $200 for a couple years, instead of being able to buy the sealed boxes for $50 out of the gate, retail 40, $50 for a couple years, you're going to have pre-order going to the moon, $300-400. You're going to, yeah. And then Pokemon Center might see that and be like, okay, they want this. They're going to get it. And then the print run is 50x or 100x what the Mario Pikachu ones. So things like that might not be able to happen in this current climate because
Yeah.
it's just too stonky and the print runs are really high. And if it's too obvious, it just won't happen.
I think one really good card to talk about is the Gold Star Greninja on the English side. To talk about sort of what's happening there. An example of a card that, and Dan and I talked a lot about this, and this was like sort of our differences in risk tolerance. Like, I think both of us were like, this card is amazing, in terms of like the art, the uniqueness, the fact that it's a Greninja Gold Star is just insane. But feeling out sort of like for me, I'm so uncomfortable with like how many there could possibly be. And when we look at like what happened with like the Champions Path Charizard and that just continuing to get, like so much of that, and thinking about like how many they're probably going to print, like way more even Celebration ZTBs than they've ever printed Champions Path, and may even do reprints for years of that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like it's that supply side. It's like when supply just feels endless, like where, like, do you feel like $5 to $10 seems like, if you just looked at that card, you'd be like, that seems like an insanely good value, but now like I've started buying some at like $1 now, like $1 each basically. Because at that price, I like it, but like, I totally get why people were buying at like $5 to $10 and hoarding them and buying tons of them. But it was an example of like, where I was just like, for me, the risk of that supply side, I don't like buying things so early, but if there hadn't been as much of it, it could have been so even though this didn't work, like the risk reward, first of all, in the end, it might work out anyway. In the long run, it could work out really, really well. But even in the short term, it could have worked out really well if it didn't get as flooded as it did. And there was just more short-term demand, that held it up. And frankly, so every like modern investing channel I looked at was telling people to buy that Charizard from from Champions Path. That has not happened with this card nearly.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. But it's
I like that card, but I like this one a lot better.
yeah,
It's
this is a much better card.
Yeah.
I think too. I mean, it's a freaking Gold Star Greninja. Like, but and I bring it up because it's one of these things where like I think both of us made rational decisions, and you're sort of at the whim of like Pokemon, how much is going to be open, how much is going to be printed, and then how many other people are going to speculate on the market. So there just isn't a clear. So like you basically, the best you can do is understand the risk reward and then kind of like do what you feel is comfortable, set your price targets, go from there. And then in the long run, I do think that including this card and so many promos, even if you do get in, you take a little bit of risk and you do buy them a little bit high, probably in the long run, they'll do pretty well. Even if they fall a bit. What do you think? What do you think about that card? And sort of your current strategy or thinking on it? Are you still buying as they're coming down, or do you feel like you have enough now and want to wait?
I've actually got it on my list to buy at least 100 more sometime soon because they have come down quite a bit. Usually when I buy a substantial amount of a card, generally what people tend to do is the price goes down and then they think they failed and they want to sell. They like to buy high and sell low, what you're not supposed to do.
Definitely don't do that.
Like I probably own 300 of these for around $1,000. So a little over $3 a piece I was paying on average. So when the price like halves from there, or maybe even goes down 60% from there, I'm fully willing and capable to go another 300, 400, 500 cards deep. And on a card like this, just the downs, like I've actively been selling. I just shipped the CGC 9.5 today that cost me $13 to grade it.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold it for like $50, 45 or $50. So like that one transaction, I mean, I had to go through, not everyone is going to hit a 9.5, but I pre-graded it. I sent out a good one, and that actively, like 30 of the, or not 30, if I were to buy 30 today, 20 to 30 today, I could buy for free, right?
Like that's the cost of like 15 to 20 of them, right there.
Yep. So that'll be my plan over time. Once PSA gets to a reasonable number, and look at the pop report, some people are already doing it at 50. I'm just not that brave because I don't want to end up with $50 PSA 9 Greninjas.
I'm amazed that people are buying them graded, but again, part of me isn't like, and this gets into a good conversation of like a lot of people who buy stuff, like they're just collectors and they don't follow the market closely. They're not investors. They just go on eBay. They see a cool looking card and they want it and they buy it for $50, right?
Yeah.
So now supply will matter in the end. And Dan and others who are buying hundreds of these, you do have to be aware that like if everyone mass grades them, there just could be so many on the market that, it just becomes a bad situation where people are listing like 50 of them and they're going for like $5 each. I mean, like these are possible scenarios, but it's also very possible and reasonable that these settle at, $20 to $25 for a 9, $50 for a 10, somewhere in there. And for Dan, that's easy profit. There's a lot of easy profit in there. And the thing is Dan's in a great financial situation. He doesn't need the money right away, and he's going to list these for years. Like Dan buys lots and lots of things so that for the next 5 to 10 years, he's going to have these being, slowly kind of selling one at a time. That's the thinking, behind moves like that. And so just as Dan said, he knew that sort of going in. And so that's why he's not panicking or upset. And in fact, he might even be happy that the price is now lower because he can buy more of them. And he might actually, because the price has gone down, in the end, he might actually make a lot more money than he would have if the price had gone up or the price had stayed the same, because he may buy a lot more of them for eventual grading and then make, a lot more. So hopefully that makes sense for people.
And it's one of those things where the downside is relatively low, relative speaking. I mean,
the downside's like, I would say $3,000. Like,
it's fixed, I guess. The downside is fixed and known, and this isn't going to be the next Scream promo. I can quite confidently say that PSA 10s of this aren't going to be selling for $300 in 2 or 5 years. I don't make any guarantees, but I guess I can guarantee I'll be a very rich man if that's happening. Today they're selling for $200 in PSA 10, but that's only because grading is $50 a piece. And that's still
like, if you care about your wallet, and you please be patient and don't
pay $200. Yeah.
Like, unless like, obviously, like, yeah, anyone here who's watching this channel doesn't have to worry about that, but
there's already 100 PSA 10s. Actually, people are getting beat up pretty bad. There's 288 PSA 9s and 100 PSA 10s. So the most recent sales on the 9s are like $25 per Poké Data. So it's not a gamble I'm willing to take. I don't want to get, if I'm going to put $50 into a Greninja Gold Star, instead of grading one, I'm going to buy 25 to 30 more raw with that same $50. That's my current play. If we see 25 and 9s might be like break even or only lose like $10, and then 10s will be maybe a $50 profit, I'll probably start sending some at like $25 grading. But for now, CGC for like $13, that's easy enough. 9s are kind of like break even, 9.5s and 10s are profit.
Yeah. And so Dan, part of why Dan's probably doing this too, right? I mean, it's good to have different levels of items, items that are $25 to $50 in your store that are going to, sell quite frequently, it's good to have. But there's also right now, there's a limited number of these like really great lots and larger lots and high value items. And so part of what happens is, and I don't want to necessarily speak for Dan, but for myself too, and I'm sure this is true for Dan, you do start doing more of these types of plays when there's less of those like, I can every day buy like an insanely great, lot and put all my money in there and then just flip those cards. And they're still, they're still existing, but particularly, and for Dan, like Dan's operating at a much higher amount of money now than he used to. And so because of that, like it's hard to put all that money to work in really good ways all the time. And so some of these types of, modern lower value, potentially really solid return though over a long period of time. I mean, Dan could easily make a good 6K, on this reasonably when all is said and done after fees and everything. It just may take many years. Versus a very fat, like you could make quick 6K on one card in a week, if something happens to come up, a good value in the market. But basically you do all of these things and at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a card like this, like there is a lot of value to having 100 of the same card to sell. It's way easier to sell 100 PSA 10 Greninja Gold Stars than to sell 100 different promos from like the perspective of photographing and making listings and this and that. Clearly you're going to have not as much. Like if you list 100 unique cards, you're more likely to sell multiple of them on a given day because you're going to be like fighting against your own self, trying to sell too many too quick. But yeah, like Rusty's done it for a long time with a lot of the Black Star promos. Over the years, he's graded tons of Black Star promos that he has bricks of and just done it slowly over time, not grading 5,000 all at once, but there are certain cards that he might grade 500, 1,000, a couple thousand of them by himself over a decade or decades.
Yep. And then it's just something important to know out there that just be careful. Like a lot of these pop reports are far from fully fleshed out. So if you are buying these types of things as investments, thinking that there's going to be a lot of upside, it's unlikely unless there's humongous explosion in demand, because as prices goes up, Rusty's just going to quickly rate 100 of them and then, sell, flood the market. And so, and that's just how these things work. So, understanding what piles are out there. I've had a lot of Patreon questions recently to me, like some private ones in individual things and other, just asking like, is that going to happen with like Wizards of the Coast first edition holos or like original Nintendo EX or, those middle eras. Are people also doing that with that? And it's interesting to think about, not to change subject too much. And maybe we shouldn't just because there are so many questions, but, there weren't bricks of those. You actually had to open packs. It's much harder to accumulate a bunch of those than it is to like accumulate a bunch of those, those promos very quickly. So,
yeah. I don't know where you are in the chat, but I'm lost all over. And then I'm at the bottom again. Pokey Martin asked a pretty interesting question. Are there more base set Charizards or Moonbryons? I don't know how serious of a question it was, but to me, the answer is very, very easy. There are way more base set unlimited Charizards than modern chase cards because
so much more.
Yeah. So like if you're talking about like a Neo Destiny Unlimited Dark Crobat or like that's a harder answer because
I think there's still more.
There probably are, but I don't know the split between Unlimited and first edition from those eras. But like base set specifically, Base Jungle, Fossil Rocket were printed into oblivion, and Charizard was 1 out of 45 packs, 1 out of 3 for a holo, 1 out of 15 because the Machamp was in the deck. So only 15 holos in the box. There are hundreds of thousands, if not a million base set unlimited Charizards. Umbreons, it's very, very tough, but they're very well may only there might be 50,000 of them, somewhere between 10 and 100,000, if I had to guess.
Yeah. Now,
Several months ago,
which one will have more tens? The Umbreon.
yeah, look, that's the other interesting side of this. The Charizards were largely open 23 years ago and folded in half and put into pockets and slid across the playground and traded on the bus. And so yeah, it's the attrition is monumentally higher with the Charizards, but the print run was monumentally higher. And you're talking about a 1 out of 45 packs versus a 1 out of, I don't even know what Moonbreon is, 800 packs, something like that, something on that order.
Yeah. But it's a great point, right, to bring up. And I do think that people who are a little bit, sometimes also newer to this can they hear vintage and they think rare, which is not like at all the case. Now, condition, that's where, as we were saying, that's where it becomes, more interesting. But there are going to be modern chase cards, if they don't have hugely high PSA 10 rates, like the Moonbreon, that might actually rival, I think, over time, some of the 10 rates of some of these base set unlimited, kind of in that range. But definitely not that card. That's going to have. I would be highly surprised if that doesn't get to 4,000 to 5,000 within the next couple of years. If it's already, at 750 with prices still at $50, I would be surprised. I mean, it's possible that it doesn't get that high, but I would be somewhat surprised.
I agree. Yeah.
So, and how many PSA 10 unlimited Charizards are there?
I just pulled it up on PokéData. It's 450. So Moonbreon has already surpassed the PSA 10 pop of the unlimited card.
So, but overall graded, that's a very different story.
Total graded,
less Umbreons graded than you're going to have unlimited Charizards graded for sure.
Yeah, I don't think there'll ever be. Roughly, there might be more. 10 years from now, there might be more base unlimited Charizards graded total than were printed of Moonbreon entirely. Because right now there's 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 15, 20. It's like 30 something thousand base set unlimited. And I said the Moonbreon print run it's a big range, but it's likely somewhere between 10 and 100,000. 10 years from now, we might have 50,000 base unlimited Charizards graded. And maybe that's roughly what the Moonbreon print run was. We're likely to never know, but doing the math, I mean, Pokemon tells you every year. They post it usually around this time of year, June, usually. They have a corporate website, their Japanese corporate website. Whenever I see that, I'll probably do a video talking about it a little bit briefly, but last year it was like 3.4 billion cards in the span of a year. This year, it'll probably be fairly similar. So you can work backwards from the math. You got to make some assumptions. How much is English? How much is non-English? How much of it goes into the battle decks and such? But roughly speaking, order of magnitude, current chase cards are probably between 10 and 100,000 cards printed.
James asks, is it possible that Evolving Skies doesn't get a reprint?
Yes. It's possible. Team Up would be the one that certain people point to that say is like proof that it can happen, proof that it did happen and can happen. Why Pokemon would do that, I have no idea, because like I said, if Pokemon were to go back right now and print more battle styles, I can call my distributor tomorrow and have a pallet on my doorstep by Friday of battle styles, as much as I want at $80 a box. If they print more, the distributors are going to be like, come on, man, we don't want that. We can't sell it. We've got half a warehouse full already. If they print this, I'm selling these for like 180 right now. I don't know what they sell them to their distributors for, but presumably it's like $50-ish, and then the distributors sell it for in the 70s. Maybe it's even 60. I don't know what a distributor's margin is, but if they made a print run of 100,000 Evolving Skies boxes, they're going to be instantly gobbled up by the distributors around the country, around the world, And then guys like me, if my distributor said, "Hey, I've got Evolving Skies at $80 a box," I'm gonna place the biggest order I've ever. I'm gonna get 20 cases of it. I'm gonna get something like that. The price might come right back down to like 110, 120, but I would feel very comfortable getting 20 cases of Evolving Skies tomorrow at 80. I mean, who wouldn't? It's going to be instantly sold. So they'd be crazy to not print it, but maybe they won't. Maybe with Pokemon Go Set, Astral Radiance, whatever's coming for the fall, maybe they just don't get around to it. I'd be shocked though, because Evolving Skies is less than a year old. So there's over a year left, historically speaking, to get Evolving Skies reprinted.
Pretty much. Kima Collects asks, thoughts on the Pop Series hollows that you can only get from blisters? Do enough people even know about those?
More people know now.
Yeah, there's like the popular one is like the Lugia. Have you seen the hollow Lugia?
Yep.
I actually saw a PokeRev video recently where he was like given that card or something and he didn't know what it was. So that's evidence that I would think that a lot of people don't know. I mean, PokeRev knows a ton about Pokemon, so
I bet the prices are slightly higher than when that video was posted.
I'm sure,
if not substantially already.
Yeah, so I do think that first of all, people don't even know the Pop Series at all very well. Like there are a number of cool cards in the Pop Series that people, you just don't see them that often. People don't talk about them. Obviously your gold stars, but there are just a lot of other cool cards in all of the different Pop Series packs. And then you have cards like that are particularly a Lugia. So I do think it wasn't so cheap though before. I mean, there were enough people who knew. Video asks, question, why are many of the Sun and Moon what does BB stand for?
Booster boxes.
Oh, booster boxes. Thank you. Oh my God. Booster boxes, many hundreds of dollars, but you can buy many of the Rainbow Chase cards for $20 or less in Near Mint Raw. Make it make sense. I just bought many $5 Burning Shadows Rainbow Rares. It doesn't make sense. It's why I'm buying some.
I guess I'll give an alternate take on it, and I could very well be wrong. I'm not a big fan of Rainbow Rares personally, so that's a different argument that may have.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's what I look for is people, in my opinion, will be nostalgic for them 100% and come back to them and enjoy them in a number of years. But the problem is they included them in Sword and Shield also, so it's going to take a while. I did the same thing with the break cards with the Lugia. Everyone said break cards are the worst cards ever. We all hate these, these types of things. I could buy those Lugias for like $1. Now they're $50. The downside risk is so low. Now I would buy mint ones, and that's part of the hard part is that there's a lot of these cards are non-great condition. This is not Sword and Shield. These do not all get 10s like Sword and Shield. Right? Sword and Shield Rainbow Rares, bad investment in my opinion. Sun and Moon Rainbow Rares, a totally different thing with a totally different booster box situation, a totally different pull rate situation because there are a lot more Rainbow Rares in a lot of these, and now some of them are quite expensive. I mean, particularly some of the later ones from your, team up era sets. But there are a number of them that are still, very affordable, and even some very popular Pokemon. I mean, you do have quite a bit of reprints of like Sun and Moon base, for example, like with all the ZTBs that they reprinted, but there are some, your Umbreon, Espeon, your, in my opinion, Solgaleo is a very underrated Pokemon, and I think will do well long term as sort of the mascot of that era. Lunala, I'm a little bit less hot on, but still, so you got to have Moon to Sun and Moon, but I there's a lot of that there's a lot of opportunity and that sort of thing. And this is where you get into these arguments of like, well, booster boxes are a better investment, right? They're always a better investment, and it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how these cards, I have done, and historically singles, if you bought them at the right time, have done much, much better than sealed product in this hobby. And anyone who is telling you different, it doesn't know the numbers. But there's a lot more risk and there's a lot more examples of people buying singles really high and losing a lot of money than there are sealed boxes, even when we include like vintage Wassa sealed boxes, which people also humongous on when they were buying, base set at 35,000 and it kind of down to 15. But it was even worse for the unlimited base cards than it was for the booster boxes. So I think that if you're going to speculate in these markets, it's definitely going to be probably quite a bit more risky, and there's definite potential that these cards don't move at all because there's just no demand ever. And you just have to be aware of that. Of course, that was the exact same thing that was said, about everything from the Diamond and Pearl era and the Black and White era and the original X and Y era, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just unlikely that an entire era, the chase cards and rainbow rares were huge when they came out. People loved rainbow rares. It was so exciting to have because we finally had very hard to pull cards. I mean, you have to understand these were like these were some of the first, since the gold stars, obviously you had gold cards, you had the like the silver, you had various secret rares and different things sprinkled throughout, but this was sort of, reminiscent of the gold cards. Now, did they sour and people got tired of them because they all kind of look the same? There are these types of things. And listen, I think that there's some merit to all of that. But I also think that they look cool. And I'm telling you, people love these things. Kids, younger generations, and I know it's people love them. So, and still love them. So, what can I say? So, it's demand is very difficult to predict. I like buying low on when people don't like things. So,
yeah.
But to your question, it also goes to the idea of like, well, then why are the booster boxes so much if people hate rainbow rares? Because rainbow rares are the only card that people are going for in these sets because people don't even like the full arts that much from Sun and Moon, so it brings up those types of questions. Obviously you have some alt arts in some of the later sets, but generally speaking, so yeah. Professor Oak says, what price range will be affected the most if prices do dip? I feel like the biggest percentage drop will be $200 to $500 cards.
Yeah, that feels like a reasonable range to me. The really low stuff is, we're in that weird spot with grading where I don't want to say that there's a floor for graded slabs, but there almost kind of is. Like it still blows my mind. I've bulked off over 1,000 slabs to largely whatnot streamers who will just take any and everything for 10 to 15 bucks a piece because they put it in their wheel spins or mystery boxes or just selling single slabs for 20 bucks a piece, whatever it may be. So yeah, there's some kind of a floor almost on the super low end, which might collapse and might have if and when PSA gets back to $10 a card. But that $200 to $500 range, it's not high end enough to be investment grade. And a lot of those cards that fall into it might be ones that see the pops really shoot up more so. So yeah, it's more prone to, I guess, larger falls if and when things continue to get worse.
Yeah, I think cards in the $200 to $500 range, that there's going to be a lot more supply. That's the caveat I would add, because there are a number of cards in the $200 to $500 range that I think are actually good generally, but the ones where we think the supply is going to continue to grow quite a bit, that would be the only thing I would add.
Yeah.
And although the one counter argument I would put out there would be that because PSA is at $50 tier right now, it actually makes sense to grade those cards. And so the supply is going to be more filled out for those types of cards than for your $50 to $100 cards. And so it's possible that those get absolutely destroyed when PSA goes down to $10. The ones that have hugely high supply. That would be the one thing I would throw out there as a.
And I think a lot of the cards, I guess maybe I'd broaden it down a little bit to like the two, like looking at Greninja Gold Star being a $200 PSA 10 currently, that card is going to drop 60%. That card is going to drop 60%.
If it only dropped 50%, that would be phenomenal.
I'm being conservative saying that. I don't want to be too aggressive, but like
Dan's going to be buying it. That card only falls 60%.
Yeah, like I sold my first Sword Shield 50 PSA 10s. I've always got one within arm's reach because I'm swimming in them. But I sold my first couple at $200 a piece, and 190, 181, all the way down to they're selling for $50 now. I sell a couple every week for $50. I think the lowest on eBay is like 45 or something. But I've got sales history of like 80 of them or something. So I've got pretty good search results, and I'm able to move them at 50. But it blows my mind, honestly, that this card's still doing 50. It is a beautiful card, and it is a PSA 10 Charizard, full art. But there's a lot of them. There's a real lot of them. And Greninja is going to be a similar story. Maybe it won't get quite so many because the price might run down quicker because it's only Greninja. But it is a gold star too, though. So who knows?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I would like to hear your take on how much you estimate exists in sealed booster boxes for base set unlimited versus base set 2 versus legendary collection versus XY Evo.
We've done base set before, right? Aren't we both in the 1 to 10,000 box range?
Of what?
Base set unlimited booster boxes remaining opened.
Unopened.
Is that what the question was, or was it originally produced?
It looks like you're right. I read it in my head as original produced, but you heard it correct, even though I was the one reading it.
I think we've both answered that. I think I was on the higher end last time we talked. I think I was in the 5 to 15, and you might have been a little lower. And I don't want to be putting words into your mouth.
I think there's like 1 to 5 left only.
1 to 5.
So bye.
I think I was a little bit higher. So yeah, 1 to 10. I like to give
1 to 5, not 1,000. 1 to 5 booster boxes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I wasn't answering it seriously. No. How many do I think are left? I would be stunned if it was only 1 to 5. Like floored. If that's how many. If that was all that was left. Like floored. Like that would be really low, in my opinion. And if it was only 1,000 to 5,000 left unopened, then the price at like whatever $15,000, like that doesn't seem crazy at all to me. Just my personal opinion.
And Rusty stated relatively recently in a public video. So I'm not spilling any Patreon info or anything like that. I'm always comfortable sharing other people's information when it was publicly on YouTube. He said he could source like 1,000 base unlimited boxes if he had to. He doesn't own 1,000 base unlimited boxes, but he knows like where a lot of them are.
Yeah. And I know of people who have like 25, 30, 40. Yeah. And there might be people who have 100 or 200, I don't know anyone at that level, but I wouldn't be floored.
You might know them. You just don't know that they have it. you probably do know some people with 100 of them.
Sure.
And that guy's not me,
but,
for sure.
And I also think there are probably 5,000 plus people who have at least one. So when you start adding the numbers at that point, it becomes, but again, this is base set booster box. This is freaking base set unlimited. Like that's not a lot. Like that may sound like a lot, like a huge number to people. Like, I don't think that's a lot at all. Now if there were 50,000 left, that would be a humongous amount. And it would surprise me if it was anywhere near that high. But like, if we want to like estimate around 10,000, that seems reasonable. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem crazy, but again, we could easily be 10,000 off, you know, 5 to 10,000 off. So
What were his other sets? I know Legendary Collection and Evolutions, but base set 2 was in there as well, right?
oh yeah, all of the base set reprints. So base set 2, legendary, and Evo.
Base set 2. Base set, it's all complete guesswork, but like base set 2 wasn't printed near as much, but it was still printed a lot.
Yeah.
It was right after Fossil, so it was in that base set to Rocket range where they were just printing everything like mad. A tenth to a fifth of whatever base set unlimited is. So if base set unlimited is 10,000, 1 to 2,000 boxes, maybe. Complete guess.
There's got to be more than that.
There could be, maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's 25,000 base set unlimited and then like 5 to 10,000 base set 2.
Yeah.
I no idea.
15,000 base unlimited, maybe 8,000 base set 2. Now, again, there's probably a lot of it is like not booster boxes, to be fair. Also, there's probably just like lots and lots of packs out there, lots and lots of, what were the blisters for base set 2? Trying to think.
What do you mean? What were they?
What did they look like?
Similar.
They were the same art as the packs? I
believe so. Yeah.
I can't picture them in my head. I was just thinking, what does the base set 2 blister look like? Whatever. Sorry. Lost my train of thought. And then Legendary Collection, definitely the least, in my opinion, of the number that are left.
Is there not even a base set 2 blister? Maybe there's not even a blister for base set 2.
I can't picture it in my head, Dan. It's so weird.
Maybe I'm not seeing one come up quickly on eBay. So yeah, there might not have been one.
Yeah.
They were in some of those like oddball repackaged when they were being sold for $1 a pack or $2 a pack.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, base set 2 was not as popular as base set unlimited.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like there was a proper blister for that set.
Yeah, but there could be less of those boxes than I think. It's possible. Legendary Collection, maybe 1 to 2,000 boxes left. Maybe 4,000, 5,000. Like, could be upwards of that. I'd be surprised if it was more than that. But we could be way low. So
we could be high, maybe. And like you said, if we are, then the prices seem pretty reasonable.
You think there could be less than 1,000 left Legendary Collection booster boxes?
It seems so hard to say. It would be surprising if it were less than 1,000, I guess, but it would be surprising. I don't remotely think there's like 5,000 of that. Again, all just complete. It's silly to speculate. So
what are people saying? I want to hear it. Let's hear some other ridiculous speculation, so it's not all on us to be stupid up here.
Yeah, let's see. Let us know in the chat. I'm not seeing any guesses, so put your guesses in the chat for how many base set unlimited boxes are left, how many Legendary Collection are left. Then like evolutions, more than base set unlimited.
Yeah,
many more
evolutions. If I had to throw out a guess, if I was forced to, 150,000.
I was gonna say around 100,000, and I've heard people say that Evolutions was the most printed set ever. Some people kind of confidently say that. I think Base Unlimited was printed substantially more, like not 10x more, but multiples more. Again, it's guesswork. Don't really know. But so I think Base Set Unlimited was printed substantially more, but way more Base Set Unlimited was open. So like fewer are remaining unopened, but more was printed originally. That's my personal guess on all of it. Base Blue Boy guessed 100K Evolutions boxes. Nostalgianomics guessed 250K Evolutions boxes. Peak That Chew guessed 150,000 Base Set Unlimited and 10,000 Legendary Collection. Those numbers both feel high to me, but he might be right. Like, it's
not that high for Base Set Unlimited in particular. I just can't imagine there are 150,000. That's
yeah. I mean, you're talking about a market.
It's still speculation, but
What's that market cap? 150,000
Yeah, I just don't think
times
it's that much.
15. That's a lot of zeros. So that'd be $2.25 billion, right? Yeah, $2.25 billion that would be.
Yeah.
At 15,000 a box times 150,000.
Yeah, if they were all listed at once and sold.
Yeah, that would obviously that many coming up. uh,
I just always get a kick out of like those conversations in crypto when people like say how much like the market cap is, but like only like a fraction of 1% of it is ever actually traded or sold of something. So it's like,
yeah,
if that got higher percentage, you'd see the price absolutely plummet because there are not, nearly enough people to pay those prices now.
yeah.
Um, but the same thing is true with Pokemon too. I mean, um, um, I like market cap is really important to understand and get a sense of, but you also have to really understand that like the act, like you have to look at like how, like what percentage is actually for sale and what percentage is actually selling each month. And if it's a very high percentage actually selling each month, that shows that the market could quickly absorb and continues to kind of quickly absorb those items at that price, versus a situation where if a ton of people decided to sell all at once, how much of that could actually be absorbed at those prices.
Yeah.
Um, feel free, Dan, if you see a question or anything you want to go for.
It's just, yeah, people still talking about the print runs and stuff.
It's an interesting, super speculative conversation, and what's amazing is how widely it could be. That's
Yeah.
and that we really don't know. It's amazing. And so
Yeah.
even if we have what we think are maybe somewhat estimations of the print run, then to try to estimate how much is left, I mean, that's a whole, who the hell knows?
It's like getting down into okay, we're already guessing enough on what the print run was, then trying to guess next level off of that original guess.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Like when people ask unlimited Japanese whatever that's substantially more scarce than the first edition, or base set fourth print, or fossil 2000 print, like those really obscure impossible to know, multiple, like impossible, infinitesimally, like impossible layered on impossible to know, to estimate.
I do think it is funny to look at market cap when we compare the market cap of booster boxes to the graded cards. And I do want to make a point here that's important. So everyone knows the very correct argument and the very solid and good pro booster box argument, which is that PSA cards only go up in pop theoretically, unless something ridiculous happens. I mean, theoretically, these things can get lost and destroyed and cracked by mistake, and things do happen. But
if one of the major vaults gets hit by a hurricane or some natural disaster, yeah,
like these things will happen. To be honest, these things will get destroyed to some degree over time. But whereas booster boxes, constantly opened up, constantly dwindling supply, all this type of thing. Thus, booster boxes much better investment. Solid, absolutely correct. Argument there. The issue though is when you start looking at market cap, and when you start to think about how many booster boxes are left compared to how many of the chase card are in PSA 10, it becomes this staggering where you're a billion, many billions of dollars for the booster box, or $1 billion for the booster box, and $100,000 for the chase card, market cap in PSA 10. And it becomes whoa. And that's where I'm not saying that the PSA cards are undervalued necessarily, because there probably should be a really wide disparity there, but it's a nuanced thing. You can't just say, oh, it's just booster box are going to get, it's yes, but how long will it take for that many to open up that it becomes anywhere relevant in terms of the amount has now opened up so much that we have so many PSA 10s that now the market cap of PSA 10s, PSA 9s, PSA 8s all combined are getting anywhere close to just the amount of seal that's left, these types of things. And at this point in history, we're nowhere near close for anything. is what I will say to people. Like it's not even in the ballpark. You could take the entire graded, any entire set compared to the booster boxes, and it's not even close. So,
Yeah.
and nor should it be. If it starts getting close, then I think these graded cards are in deep trouble potentially. Let me know if you see anything, Dan.
Yeah, still a lot of people going on print run estimates.
All right, I'll try to pick up some questions here in the middle.
Ray actually asked us, what is your favorite Japanese special set? If you want to go first, I'm trying to think. I'm not as into Japanese, generally speaking, as you. So I was hoping you'd have a quick answer.
By special set, we're talking about Pokekayun, Shining Legends, Shiny GX. Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about just something that's special to me, Ray?
They have a name for it. I'm so not into Japanese. What do they call it? Like Ultra Shiny GX. Isn't there a special term for that kind of set? And they have a different pack configuration.
Yeah, anyone in the chat, if so, I'm sure someone knows the answer to that here, 100%.
The term isn't coming to me, but
I'm gonna try not to lose where I was here. Oh shoot. Either way, so if we're talking about those, my personal favorite,
high class set.
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to think of.
High class Shiny GX. I mean, right now it's not this because I've just gotten my fill of so much of it, but my favorite was Shiny GX in terms of actually experiencing it for the first time. That was my favorite. How about you, Dan?
I've opened so few. Like my start was in English set cards, and then I got into Japanese promo cards. I've not bridged into Japanese set cards. I do own some remix bout because I really like the box with the 3 starters on it. And I do own some sealed EV Heroes. I've not opened any of it. I've not opened Japanese set cards. So I guess it's kind of cheating, but I like Japanese promos a lot. I like the Scream promos a lot. That's not really a special set, but I guess that's a set that I enjoy a lot. And that's going to be my answer, even if it doesn't fully fit. Pokegal in the chat.
Pokegal.
I have her recent stream in my watch later. I didn't quite get to it yet. I always have a big backlog for Monday from the weekend because I don't consume YouTube.
I didn't know she was streaming again. I'll have to check it out.
She just did one. I think it was late last week.
Nice. Got a bunch of people that we enjoy here in the chat. Bunch of great channels. Support all these great people.
She asked, if I invest 100K in Pokemon, am I going to get rich? Maybe.
Yes.
Pokemon is broad. Surely there's something that if you put 100K into it today, you'll have 1 million in 10 years. Yeah. What that is, I have no idea. Well, I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to speculate. But there's also things out there. If you put in 100K today, you're going to have 10K in 10 years. So,
which might still qualify as rich. So yes, yeah. You will remain rich.
Yeah.
You'll only lose 90% of it.
Yeah.
What are your guys' opinions on EV Heroes and the cost of sealed rising?
I don't even know. I liked EV Heroes. I like the box art. It's an EV heavy set, evolution heavy set. It feels like a pretty obvious play. So I have several cases of it. I don't even have I have a handful listed, I think, over at Troll and Toad, but I've not been actively monitoring it. That's one that I felt like I was gonna buy and then wait until it comes back to me. Wait until I start hearing about it again, if I ever do. Or maybe I'll take a peek at it in 3 or 5 years when I get to that part of the storage area again in my natural rounds.
Yeah, I didn't go super heavy. I bought a few. I was worried about reprints. I don't trust for me, the Japanese, like, I think that they can start reprinting everything and reprinting way more than, they ever have in the past. Obviously, we're seeing that with VMAX Climax right now, with the super low prices that's at. Was just getting some good info because I had looked away from that set, but talking about it last night in Discord, prices going from $80 at one point, $89 at one point, back down to like 40, 50 now.
Maybe I'll have to scoop some.
Yeah, but just because so much of it's been printed. Sorry, what was the question again? Oh yeah. So that was my feel, but EV here is a set, great looking box. That's part of why I like it. Particularly if you can get it for fairly cheap. I just think it's a cool looking box that people are going to want. Yeah.
G1T Landon mentioned it's like 175 now. So I forget when I bought that, but I think I was targeting 100 and then I got a little impatient. I think I went in at like 110 on Japanese cases or 12 boxes, I think. Maybe 48 boxes, maybe 4 cases.
Yeah, that's a lot more than me. I think I have 2 boxes. Quite a bit more than me.
When I buy, especially targeted buys of certain sets that I just really, for whatever reason, feel like, or probably, honestly, I'm probably influenced heavily by influencers and Discords and whatever I see someone talk. Okay, yeah, I'll buy 24, 48, or because again, I'd rather sell 48 of one box than sell like a mix of. I have had some collection buys recently that have like one off of 12 different boxes that Japanese, I don't even know what they are.
Yeah, that was also still during the time when like people were just ravenous for like product and stuff. So, it's like that was still in those days. So, even if they had printed a lot more, who knows? Could have all gotten doubled. Pokebeaver says, "Hey guys, what are your thoughts on low pop EX series graded cards for regular hollows versus EX cards, gold stars, etc.? Do you think they get subject to similar nostalgia and demand as WotC era in the future?"
I don't follow the pop reports as much as most people, I think. Definitely not as much as Jake. I'm not crazy about paying big premiums on low pop stuff. I want to buy them raw and be the one to, I guess, increase the pop is the type of play that I like to make. But having had some in my inventory, EX era specifically, I've sold like, trying to think, like EX Delta species. I think I just sold a Jolteon recently. I want to say the pop was single digit, maybe low double digits, and it sold for like $500. And to me, my cost basis in that card was probably $2 when I bought it in a collection 5 years ago. I don't have any more right now. So like, I'm not going to single-handedly double that pop or anything, but to me, I want to take that $500 today and go do more business with it. I'm more optimistic about the business I can do with that $500 than just sitting on that card and waiting for it to maybe go up.
Yeah, I mean, I very much think in the long run that if you're going to do that, I would target the 3rd gen Pokemon. Because I think that if anything becomes really nostalgic or really connects or special from that era, it'll be like the 3rd gen. So uh, I still think people way underestimate how much stuff there's going to be to collect in the future, and that people are not just going to be able to collect everything. And even middle era sets and all these types of things, there's going to be way, way, way too much. And people are going to go, of course, most people are going to go to WotC 100%, because they were the first appearances or the originals or the vintage. Then people are going to go to like their era, their nostalgia, what they collected as a kid. This is and this is what exactly 100% what we see in sports cars, what we see in comic books, what we see, so it's and then people are going to go to like create other ways of collecting. That's going to be collect one of every Pokemon, collect just shiny Pokemon, collect first appearances of every Pokemon, just like they do, for first appearance of characters in comic books, rookies in sports. There's going to have to be ways to break it down. But that being said, it's all about price point. Like, I'm buying a bunch of non-first appearance characters, non third gen characters. If I can get them PSA 9, CGC 9s for like $20, $15-20. When I hear $500 for one of these, I think, wow, like that's a lot. But I sold some low pop cards for like $5,000, $15,000 that I valued at like $2,000. But like they're super low pop and people were willing to spend really high for it. So I can't say that isn't going to continue to happen. That there aren't going to be people out there who just so love that. But there are so many really low pop cards, guys. It doesn't mean that there's going to be a lot of demand or that there's a lot of history or story or specialness to that card. Why can't someone just get it in 9? Why do you need it in 10? How many people are really going to want it in 10? Are really going to spend that high unless they're really connected to that set and they need that whole set in 10? I just don't think there's going to be a lot of people from that era. There are going to be some, but those are the ups and downs of that. But there's plenty of opportunity in that era. And, I'm buying cards from that era all the time. So it's all just about price point.
Yeah. And you mentioned like Gen 3. Like I recently I had Sceptile, Blaziken, and Swampert in PSA 9. And they sold for a couple $100 a piece. I didn't know what the 10s were worth. But like I just pulled up on 130 point, a Sceptile recently sold in PSA 10 from EX Ruby and Sapphire. It was advertised as a pop 6 and it sold for $1,750 a PSA 10 Sceptile. Like if I have $1,750 that I'm looking to spend, I don't think of going to some EX era, even though it's pop 6. That's not what I'm going to be buying with that amount of money. I would be very happy if I were to get one in an upcoming grading return. I'd be very happy to sell for that much money, personally.
Yeah. But demand's hard to predict. These are just opinions. So, do what you think, right? If you disagree and you think those are going to be the most popular, you got to do what you think.
Yeah. I mean, the case against that being like a good investment, right, is 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when the Gen 3 original people, when they get to their proper age and everyone wants it, if that pop is still only 12 or 15 or 20, that could be a $5,000 card. Who knows? I'm not calling for that. That's just that's within the realm of possibilities.
The problem with people, and I see this all the time, all opinions are not created equal. And just to be completely blunt, my opinion that WotC is going to be the most popular is not the same as someone out there saying Evolving Skies is going to be the most popular set of all time. Those are not. One is a very good argument based on what's happened in sports and comic books and Magic cards and any hobby you can think of, like the originals, the first, so it's now that can be offset with supply. Right. So when we talk about base and unlimited, there's so much supply that some of these alt arts could be better investments or do much better. So you have to understand the nuances. It doesn't just mean, but when all rarity aside, if all rarity being equal, let me put it that way, it's very unlikely that a random generation like Sword and Shield is going to go down as the most popular generation of all time. Just think critically, guys. It's not like it's just, then that doesn't mean that it isn't going to do really well, and it isn't going to be one of the most popular generations of all time, because maybe this happened during the boom and tons of kids are getting in right now, collecting with their parents, creating memories. It does not negate that. It could be extremely popular and do extremely well. And this generation could be much, much more popular than Sun and Moon or X and Y. Like those arguments I'm willing to like, debate and hear. But it's just, there's just no data to back that up. Now, that being said, nothing is a sure thing, and Pokemon doesn't have to follow what other hobbies have done. So that doesn't, like, just because that pattern has existed elsewhere doesn't mean that it's going to exist in Pokemon. So, but it does get frustrating, like, when people are, I guess I worry. It's not, I promise you guys, it's not about winning some sort of argument. It's sort of a worry of like, well, these guys say this and these guys say this, and all arguments are equal, So it's all opinions. Nobody knows, it's like some people, you can actually look at other markets and how value got developed over time. So what do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, base set first edition is always going to be the original English set, and Evolving Skies has beautiful cards. Moonbryon, beautiful card, but artists are capable of drawing these creatures in many different ways. I'm not an artist by any means. I have no ability to create beautiful looking images like this, but there are just so many ways to pose a creature in different landscapes with different creatures. And I'm very confident that over the next 5 to 10 years, my mind will continue to be blown with like the different things they'll come up with. I saw the Green Shiz in the chat earlier. He's a big fan of this.
Yeah.
And the Greninja Gold Star that came, and like, there's a lot of beautiful cards that will continue to keep coming. And some
people don't like to hear this, but because it offends their sort of like collector instincts, but like investing in good arts is probably a really bad investment. And when we look at like some of the ugliest cards from other hobbies are the most expensive cards. You think the Honus Wagner is a pretty card? You think the early Babe Ruths, the Hank Aaron's, do you think any of these basketball cards, these ugly, weird looking, long, off center cards selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars are good looking? You think that's why people are buying them? No, it's because of the history, the rarity, the story, the importance. Things that see really huge value, often it has less to do with the aesthetics. So now aesthetics can matter, and definitely matter to some degree, but just be careful. And Dan really pushes that point home by saying they can always create lots and lots of more beautiful cards. They can't ever create the first again. The first is the first. So I really, just be careful. Just understand that. But
yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of other factors, so
think about the past few years and just the completely new card styles, the completely new designs they've come out with, and they're going to continue to find interesting, cool ways to draw these creatures we all love, I think.
Yeah. And now a really important point to say here is that vintage is already very expensive, and a lot more expensive than a lot of modern. So it doesn't mean that vintage is going to outpace modern. Yeah, this is two different things. So, but if you're sitting there and you're expecting like vintage to behave or modern to behave exactly like what vintage did, or even outpace it or outgrow it, anything is possible, because this is a free market. There's just literally there's just no evidence from any hobby that would support or justify.
It would be unprecedented. Yeah.
Now, the only place that's ever happened, or any sort of thing has happened even close to that, is sports. And that's just because they've created one of ones. That's the only reason. Okay. Now, if Pokemon does one-of-ones, maybe we're in a different situation and a different story. And some of these one-of-ones are selling for more than base set PSA 10 first edition Charizard. So be interesting. That'll be a whole different ball game. But as things stand right now, that's where we're at. So, but as I said before, if you're buying a card for $40, a modern card for $40 versus a $2,000 vintage card, the $40 card might actually appreciate more on a percentage basis, and it might be a lot easier for that card to get to $80 or $100. So that it's not us telling you just put your money in this or just put your money in that. It's a lot more nuanced.
You got a super chat that just came in from Imposter Oak.
Jake, this is going to sound crazy, but just hear me out. What if you made a response video to a response video? You have a video in mind?
Promo Hunters asked a question that's kind of just relevant with what we were talking about. For modern collectors who don't stop collecting, what do you think will bring them back to the Sword and Shield era? Like 10, 20 more years from now, we're going to have over 1,000 species of Pokemon. We're going to have over 100 main set releases in English. Just hammering home that what we said a minute ago. Base set first edition is going to be number one, the first set out of those 100 plus. Evolving Skies is what, set 80? What, I mean, I can find it very quickly. But it's there's a risk that it will get lost in the fog, lost in just a lot of beautiful art and great sets, and it'll just be another one of those that blends in with the others.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when you have huge boom periods like this era could be special. And some of these sets could be really special. So, I do want to underline that I'm not negating the possibility of that. But there's a lot more risk in that than assuming base set first edition is going to be the most special.
Yeah, because certainly, I mean, Pokemon is weird in that, like, if you look at Magic, it started out really slow and then it just increased. And since then, it's gone through lulls and peaks and valleys. But the lowest valley was never as low as like the alpha set print run. So in Magic, it's a bit easier because the most historic is the most iconic and the most rare in absolute terms. In Pokemon, it's a little bit tougher because like base was printed like crazy. Base first edition, not nearly as much. But yeah, when you have a big resurgence, when Pokemon ups their printing from, they were printing 1 billion cards a year maybe for a long period there. And then when you ramp up to 3-4 billion cards a year again, clearly a ton of people re-entered the hobby. So 10, 20 years from now, you can see some more nostalgia tying back to that specific re-entry. For me, my re-entry point was Phantom Forces, but many less people have a re-entry point of Phantom Forces than Evolutions, than Hidden Fates, than Evolving Skies probably. So yeah, that is relevant too, because like my core nostalgia is always going to lie in base set. But I love Phantom Forces for the fact that it was like the one that I remember. I'll never forget tearing that case and hitting that Silver Dialga and like re-experiencing the hobby for the first time in over a decade.
For sure. And it doesn't mean that modern can't be very popular and that these eras can all do well. So if Pokemon continues to expand largely, we may look back on this era, and although there was a lot of supply and a lot of popularity, we actually might look back on this era as like not that huge sometime in the future, now that we have 3 generations of Pokemon collectors going at it sometime in the future. So you just don't know these things.
Nostalgianomics has a question for us, Alex. Are you guys holding your cards for PSA or breaking down and sending most through CGC and possibly cross grading later if necessary? I have certain cards. I made a video recently, a handful I sent to CGC. So some of them I'm sending now. I feel like there's more value in getting them through and turned around. Other ones I'm holding out for like PSA at 25 a piece. A few months ago, I did send a handful at PS to PSA at 50. So a little bit of everything. It's a fun optimization problem of how to best move inventory. And it's impossible to do everything fully optimal, but it's fun to try and figure it all out. So PSA at $10 a card, I have thousands to grade. PSA at $25 a card, I have hundreds to grade. I have a couple hundred I'm going to be moving through CGC now at $13 a card.
Yeah, I have different piles for, I'm sending nothing right now. And I'm not sending a CGC, but I have different piles for PSA depending on the price points. It's exactly how I'm handling it too.
Yeah. And then the 750 special, it's like it's a full shelf or a full pallet naturally.
The 750, I crack open the binders for one last look.
Yeah.
Sometimes I send some garbage in and then I'm like, oof.
So you got a super chat, and it's Josh the Green Shiz asking me for an elevator pitch on why MetaZoo is better than Pokemon.
Okay.
And it was a $4.20 super chat naturally.
Whew.
Elevator pitch. I like certain things they're doing, and I've made that. I've discussed that in the hour-long MetaZoo videos I do every 3 months that no one watches. I like a little bit of the chase and a little bit of the numbered stuff. They might be doing a bit more of it than for my taste, but I don't collect everything in Pokemon. I don't collect everything in MetaZoo either, but I like the things they're doing as far as the tamper seals on the boxes and the labeling on the wraps that might 10, 20 years from now, if MetaZoo is still a thing, I think there will be more certainty with like the authentication of old sealed product than there currently exists in Pokemon. So I really like that they're attempting to look at the history. I mean, they're coming in 25 years after Pokemon started. They're coming in nearly 30 years after Magic started. And they're trying to do their best to take the best of each, the things they like from each, and put it all into one. And I think they're executing fairly well so far. If you don't like one thing that's really intriguing too, like their IP or lack thereof, the fact that it's all like public domain, everyone in the world somewhere knows of some cryptid. Nearly everyone by now knows who Pikachu is, but not as many as like knows Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or Mothman or whatever their like local urban legend is, whatever their local, like that's a thing that's as old as time. There's been these different folklore, urban legend, whatever, which are cryptids. So that's not really a case that it's better than Pokemon, but that's kind of my case for why I like it and why I'm interacting with it.
I'm reading a conversation right now arguing did that Crimson Invasion ever got down to $35 a box or not. That it was being sold for that. So I heard of sales at around $55 and people dumping it at 55 to 60. But at the same time, there were likely sales like more eBay public sales, one box at a time, probably selling for 90, 85, 90, maybe even 120 a Troll and Toad. You have to understand that like people were not investing back then. So no, it's just people like who want to open a box and they go online and they just buy the first box they see. People weren't necessarily like hunting for deals and trying to get super low. Now you had people like, who were hardcore in the hobby, who were like, flipping moving modern, maybe looking to buy, I'll buy a pallet at $55 or I'll, get you off your stuff. These types of things. There may be stories like that. $35 seems crazy. I don't know if you ever heard anything like that, but it's possible.
I think the lowest I ever remember seeing on eBay personally was either $64.99 or $69.99.
Yeah.
But I did hear of, and not tax advice, nothing like that,
Yeah.
cash sales in person at events. I heard that maybe 50 or 60 a box was a thing. What they were, whether or not they were reporting those, and whether or not there was something else going on to where they were able to sell it for cheaper, I'm not going to get into that, but I heard as low as potentially 50 or 60 at like regionals, cash prices.
Sure. Yeah, there's just no demand. There's just way too much supply, no demand at that point.
Yep. And Mason was recently on the podcast I do with Nick, Pokey Flips. We talked about, there's this whole, not saying we're going to get to 35 ever, but sometime over the next 5 years, it wouldn't horribly surprise me if a booster box were to be available on eBay for $69.99. Buy it now, because if we go into some kind of a lull, at the end of the day, people will sell for a loss. I've seen this take out there that like no business is ever going to sell anything at a loss. If it means making payroll, if it means like eating that week, paying your lease.
Oh my God, it's not even that serious. Businesses will just cut and run immediately if they think
Absolutely.
that they're bad or bad product. Anyone who thinks that has not been following, first of all, just like any dead CCG ever. Like, now will that ever happen? Pokemon's a different thing. I think people will be a lot, certainly in this environment and for the foreseeable future, people will be a lot more hesitant to do that, particularly because of the potential upside. And I actually think for the first time ever in Pokemon, you're seeing businesses actually store some product back and not just sell everything because of that event and investment kind of moving up potential. Now that could negatively impact the market in the long run. We'll have to see how that affects it. But I also think it's very unlikely for people. It's much, much more unlikely for people to panic sell, for these businesses to sell Pokemon at this time in history than it was when Crimson Invasion. But, when this is Pokemon is a much more robust, and it would take a huge shift for us to get back there. Not that it's impossible, but it's unlikely, in my opinion. So, but, could a bad box, a poorer set or two from every year or so, get down to around that 70, 75 for a while, wouldn't be surprising. And at the same time, you might see other boxes be 130, at the exact same time. Like that wouldn't stun me. We're in sort of a new period, in my opinion. So, yeah, so I think it's a learning experience. It's great that we some of us have strong opinions one way or another on things. My personal take is we've seen a lot of strong opinions, for people saying modern will not move at all and it's terrible, to, modern sealed is guaranteed, and then somewhere in the middle, in my opinion, it's a wait and see. And I think, Dan, you're the same thing, right? Very sort of like tough to have a strong opinion one way or another right now, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I am seeing the narrative shift, which is funny. Since S and Pratt came out with his don't invest in modern video, modern sealed product, don't be surprised if it sits for 4 to 5 years with no movement. I've seen a lot of narrative shift from certain modern channels. Not you, Alex, or not anyone I've seen here. But I just want to say things. I don't think I'm talking about you or anyone, but certain really small modern channels. I watch tons of modern channels. I watch 10 different modern channels because I'm just fascinated. And I've seen the narrative shift from sort of everything to now the narrative is just buy the really good select items. Don't buy everything, which is interesting. Just the fact that narrative is shifted is interesting to me.
I don't follow too many, but I do occasionally try to go down the YouTube rabbit hole and log out, go into an incognito browser, and then search terms that you think people would generally search. And it's interesting to see what YouTube will feed you naturally through searches, and not with you. If you're logged in, it's going to give your whole history, the whole algorithm thing. So yeah, I have a couple channels that I check in on periodically that I've noticed kind of similar things. Mason did a chat poll asking if people own MetaZoo, and it seems like a pretty even split on who does and who doesn't.
That's higher than I would have expected. That's pretty good.
Yeah, you got a lot of MetaZoo followers.
Woo. I mean, I do like it. Both of us do.
Yeah.
I definitely have not speculated on it though. Like, we're definitely in different camps in terms of our approach.
I went fairly deep with it. Yeah. I'm getting my NFT promo soon. My 1 of 100 gold Mothman NFT token promo, and I'm interested to see what those do.
Yeah, I have an almost complete Kickstarter set, which is fun for me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Questions. Lots of good conversation. Love to see it.
Yeah, very active chat. Thanks for hanging out, everyone.
Yeah. Love to see the debates back and forth in chat.
Yeah.
So Justin Pan says, I don't get the booster box PSA argument. If the chase card is cheaper than the box, why buy a box with low probability of the chase pull? So I'm always amazed at how strong people are pro or against in this debate. So I totally get why people pay up for booster boxes. They pay up for booster boxes for a variety of reasons, right? They pay up for booster boxes. Let's put the investor speculator aside and just look at as a collector. People pay up for booster boxes because they're sealed collectors, right? So they want to display the sealed box. It's exciting. It's fun to have. It makes for a nice background. And it's kind of like, maybe I'll open it one day. Like, people enjoy that sort of thing, right? So there's that. There's the rarity of the sealed product as something separately rare from the cards themselves. And some sealed product can become very, very rare. I mean, there is some very, very rare, niche Japanese sealed stuff, and some pretty rare English, set stuff, where the booster boxes are probably getting rare enough to the point where they're like rarer or fair, or not, so much less rare than some of the cards, inside of it that are out there. When you start getting into that, now that's very different than market cap that I was talking about earlier. Those are two very different things. But, when you start getting into that, what you would expect is that the booster box will start getting more and more, we'll see a larger and larger multiple from the cards themselves. But the flip side is everything that I said before. That doesn't mean that when there's a huge amount of the supply and the sealed product still out there, and the booster boxes are $500 and the chase card's $5 or $10, and there's tons and tons of that sealed stuff out there, that's where I start to look and I say, and I agree with you, Justin, and I say, this just makes very little sense, for me personally. And whenever I get pushback on either side of that, I'm always like, interesting, seems a little biased.
Yeah, when you talk about super old boxes, I understand why, like some really early Magic sets, the boxes will be massively negative EV. And that's just because of the historic nature. And some people want to have one of every box sealed. And it doesn't matter that opening a $5,000 box is going to net you $200 expected value on average. Like, the sealed collectible is just a different item entirely.
100%. So now Modern is an interesting place. And this is going to be part of it, is how many people are collecting sealed boxes to display versus how many people are investing, planning to sell later on, as compared to how many people are investing in singles and graded Modern cards versus collecting them. I have no idea, but it's an interesting idea, trying to figure out, do we think more people are investing and speculating on singles, or are more of those singles going to come back on the market at the same or lower prices if need be? Or if the prices go down on those, will people just hold them because they're more collector items versus a lot of these booster boxes? Will people hold them, or will people flood them on the market more, or vice versa, because there are certainly lots of buyouts happening on single cards, and people owning hundreds or that, so I don't have the answer to that, but it's an interesting, it's an interesting idea. And with modern, being so many booster boxes left and being, potentially never really getting to a point where we see 10,000 left of any of these booster boxes or 20,000 left of any of these booster boxes, or it taking many, many years. It's an interesting thought experiment. What do you think? Anything to add to that, or any sense of like where you think it is?
No, I largely agree with what you covered, and I delved into enough wild speculation on the whole remaining booster boxes for one night.
Yes, we are not above speculation, but we try to be very careful with saying what we're saying now is more opinion based on facts and very educated versus like,
Yeah, and Echo Base mentioned humans like gambling. Like I myself,
yeah,
I did a video recently on some of the box breaks I've bought into and how much money I've spent gambling in the hobby. And it's like that Family Guy meme, like you can have a boat or you can have a mystery box. Peter says like the mystery box could have a boat in it. Let's go for that.
Luke says that a lot of people are buying the experience when they buy a booster box. Absolutely 100% correct. Of course, though, as the price gets higher and higher, it becomes more and more difficult to actually open that, so that can shift. I do think that, and this is something that I'm just going to throw out there, and I don't have necessarily evidence for this, but I think the longer people stay in the hobby, the less product they open. And the more they move towards, because it's so much money and they really want a collection. And so they start moving more towards spending tons of money, and they realize they can just get the whole set if they just buy the set for so much cheaper. And I do there's a little bit of me in the back of my head that says if these break channels, booster break channels, like start to get a little bit smaller and people stop opening, and there stops to be, maybe the gambling decreases a little bit and people start to want collections more and more valuable actual single cards and move away. And will that affect the prices at all? My evidence for that is nothing. It's just my own personal sort of feelings and experience. Like that's what happened to me, for example. Like when I first came in, I opened tons and tons of product and it was so much fun. And then I was like, I lost so much money doing this, theoretically, or like and now I like want to find more of a system where I can build the collection I want while also getting product and opening some of it. It became more balanced. What do you think, Dan? You think that's true for most people? You think I'm rare in that?
I largely am the same way, but I guess I have good reasons as to why that is so. So I don't know how common this is, but like base set first edition all the way to current. I don't do reverse hollows, but I try to complete sets, and I need to go back and buy a lot of singles from like Sun and Moon to current. But I used to open in the XY era when I got back to Phantom Forces. I opened a whole set myself. And it used to be achievable. It used to be like I can sit down and I can reasonably open a handful of boxes, maybe a case, and get a complete set. Anecdotally, the reason that I stopped doing that so much is because the sets ballooned and got massive, and my goal of opening every one by myself just became completely unreasonable. And then when you couple that with the fact that over the past 2 years, I've been hardly opening anything because I know I can just flip it onto the market into this insanity. And then if and when things cool down, I'll revisit and I'll go back and buy those boxes. If the boxes don't cool down, I'll just go back and buy the singles, open a few loose packs of each to get started, get that experience, and then build out the rest just buying singles.
Yeah. I think it's an education. It's a knowledge thing too, right? It's also, once you learn how much cheaper and easier it is to just buy the cards themselves, it becomes, and you've had the experience of opening a bunch of product, which is really fun, which is like reminiscing your childhood. I think it becomes more natural, to find some sort of balance or shift.
Yeah.
Which interestingly will help potentially both the modern seal No, sorry. Never mind. That doesn't make sense. I was going to make an argument that didn't make sense. That would lend itself to really helping the graded market and would hurt the sealed market, because more would be kept sealed, less would be opened, and there'd be less demand for those boxes and more demand for, but I would be very hesitant to believe that's going to be some sort of huge trend. But it's an interesting idea, that we had so many new people jump in all at once, and those people, like, their preferences have largely shaped the market each and every move. If you think about it, they went really heavy into vintage and first edition base with like Logan Paul and highlighting that. Then I think they went really heavy, into modern and investing in modern speculation and Japanese and other sorts of things. And it's interesting to sort of see where they move next potentially, or settle. But yeah, very speculative. I think, are you down to do maybe like 30 more minutes?
Yeah.
Sound like
that works for me.
Kind of start winding down around 12 for us. Sweet. If you're here and watching, like, subscribe, support Dan. I'll do a quick little thing, and support us on Patreon. We can do a little plug. This month I'm going to give a presentation. Probably I'm not going to say exactly what it is, just in case I change it, but because that would be unfair to people signing up specifically for that. But we do a once a month Zoom call where you actually like come in on Zoom. Like Dan and I are on Zoom right now. We have a bunch of people come in, and we do a sort of deep dive on some market analysis, talk about the broader market, do a Q&A discussion. And then every 3 months, we're bringing on guests to kind of come in and give sort of a lecture, some sort of, and the next one will be Rusty, which will be cool to have TCA Gaming on. Obviously, crazy, super knowledgeable. Dan and I will be taking notes, I'm sure, and trying to pick up pointers, and we'll have our own questions for sure. We so greatly appreciate your support there and supporting our channels, and we'll just keep trying to create good, useful stuff, both on our, YouTube videos and then also on Patreon. Anything to add, Dan?
Yeah, and for $10 a month, you get access to those monthly Zoom meetings where it's similar to this, except for a live chat with 200 people in YouTube, 100 to 200 people. It's a bit more personal, 30 to 40 people in Zoom, face cameras, and you can pop in and you can ask face-to-face through the computer, face-to-face, questions directly. And you get all that. You get the Discord that we have, pretty active community in there. You also get like the backlog. We've been doing this. I joined in the fall of last year. It goes back to like almost a year now of like monthly backlog videos, and those are 3 hours each. So you've got dozens of hours of backlog content too. And
we do like an analytics presentation each time. And we also provide that if you don't want to watch those videos, you can just get the downloadable, analysis that we do, the different spreadsheets and different things. And then the last thing you also get office hours, which we added, which is office hours is once a week. Dan and I make ourselves available for an hour in Discord where people can just come in and hang out and ask specific questions. A little bit like that sort of, consulting sort of thing, but just kind of allow for people to get a little bit more value. So it greatly helps support us and what we're trying to do. And hopefully it our experience and information and entertainment and company and all that stuff is worth it for you guys out there. So all right, end of plug. Any last thing, or we can go back for questions for the rest?
That concludes our sponsored segment.
The link is in the description. So bad at this. I never say exactly what things are and never say exactly how to find it.
Mason dropped the link in chat too.
Thanks, Mason. Yeah, when we have a lot of great PokeTubers and different people in there sharing knowledge, also just like telling jokes and picking on each other. It's a good time. Let's see. What is your all-time favorite Pokemon card? Tyler asks. He says you can only pick one. Only one.
By art or by my personal connection to it? That all these questions you can take like so many different angles.
Yeah. Dan and I are the same way. We want to like answer it accurately. It's like I've got to figure.
Yeah. It's so tough. Like which one that I'm confident that I'll own 50 years from now. I'm going to own my original binder, but like if I had to pick one from my original binder, like that Christmas morning that Santa Claus gave me the base unlimited Charizard I never pulled. That was big. That might be it's a boring answer, but it's like the answer probably for me.
Yeah, I'm going base set Alakazam if I'm forced to pick just one.
Like a specific memory of you opening that one or just like the art?
I just loved psychic Pokemon as a kid, and Alakazam was just so cool to me. And the fact that I didn't get it in the Game Boy game because I didn't have someone to trade with for like a long time just made it like more of a chase.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like Mewtwo, but I'm not like I didn't like love Mewtwo as a kid. Interestingly, I was actually preferred Mew and liked Alakazam and Gengar better.
Yeah, I like Gengar. I like Haunter too quite a bit.
Yeah. If Gengar was in base set, I might have picked Gengar. I'm not unfortunately, Fossil Gengar is kind of meh.
Peak Dat Chu asks, who are your favorite trainers of all time and what is the most annoying Pokemon you remember from the games and why? Probably Zubat from all the caves.
Zubat, definitely
Zubat was a huge
either
thing.
Zubat or like depending on like Geodude could get annoying in the cave too because it was like hard to kill, but it was like an experience, so it was like worth killing. I mean, if you
Squirtle or Bulbasaur, it was like yeah.
That was great. Yeah.
Favorite trainers, like I don't really
answer on that.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of attachment to any of the specific trainers. I guess Red or Ash, like Ash from the animes, and
yeah, Sabrina for me. Again, it's the psychic. I like Blaine too. I loved Blaine's Island in the video game, and I loved Arcanine. So
Cinnabar Island, right? Yeah.
I remember like getting there for the first time and just being, I don't know, it's just so satisfying.
Pikachu says Zubat as well.
Yeah, Zubat's got to be up there for most people. It's just brutal.
I played yellow, so like I had Pikachu who would just thunder shock them into oblivion, and it was decent experience, but it was still like, just leave me alone. I don't want to do this. I just want to get through here.
Let's see. Polaris says, do you guys think that box breaks will help feed demand? Will modern pull rates kill box breaks in the future?
Can you read it again?
Sure.
I don't have.
Do you guys think that box breaks help feed demand? So like continue to help feed demand. And will modern pull rates kill box breaks in the future? Do you think like modern pull rates can negatively impact it at all?
So the fact that like the specific chase is 1 out of 700, people get discouraged against buying into them, and it's hard to know. Yeah, because if you buy into like a base set unlimited break, your odds are already pretty low. 1 out of 45 that you're going to get that chase Charizard. when you get to the levels of 1 out of 700, if you're only wanting one specific card, that's daunting. And if you're decent at math, you know what you're facing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that being, but again, even in spite of long odds, people like to gamble though too. And as long as that chase, no matter how extreme your odds are of getting it, people will probably go to it to some extent. If and when we ever get like serialized cards or just uber rare insert cards, it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
There's a lot of interesting game theory around this, which is at what big of a number does it become? Do people stop like being able to comprehend it? And does it become like, so there's a lot of, so there's interesting studies on like what the way it breaks down is like 1 out of 1 million is the same as like 1 out of 100 million for people. Like people are bad at like differentiating big numbers, even though it's a substantial difference.
Yep.
In terms of your like how much you should actually put in and your odds of actually winning. But the reverse is also that people can be very good at when it gets like lower. So like 1 out of like 100 or 200 versus like 1 out of 1,000 or 10,000, like people are very good at differentiating that, and like interest could hugely drop off if it's like 1 out of 1,000 versus like 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 30.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a sweet spot. Clearly the sets, and I know we have some pack breakers in the chat who are the best people to answer this, but from me talking to a number of pack breakers, generally speaking, it's great. I mean, this is very obvious, but it's great when it does both. When you both have a nice variety and then one shoot for the moon. So there's one shoot for the moon card and then sort of like a nice variety of like hits and enjoyment. Hidden Fates is a phenomenal example of a set that provides that. Are you frozen down? Or are you just looking down now? Sorry.
Oh, I was reading the chat.
You were frozen for a second.
Ray had a question on what are you hoping for in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, both in the TCG and in the video games? In both, I want Quaxley to shine. I want Quaxley. Like normally the chase cards come to the Charizard, right? To the final evolution. I want to see a chase card of the base starters of the starters. Like I want a Quaxley, Gold Star, Alt Art, Shiny, whatever. Like I want that to be the. It will be my card if it is a thing. It would be unprecedented. Well, I guess Torchic, Gold Star. So like the first the base starter got the Gold Star in the EX era. Where else has that happened? I guess
you have
the SH subsets had some basics, I believe. Like Shinx, wasn't he one of them in the like the Platinum Diamond and Pearl era?
The reverse shiny.
Yep.
But not this, but yeah.
But like we don't have really, except for baby shinies. Baby shinies do that
for sure.
But like
I feel like there are more, but I'm having trouble.
Yeah, nothing was coming to mind initially, but then I just thought of Torchic Gold Star.
Well, those for sure.
Yeah, so like I want to go back to the EX era like that. I want Quaxley to get like the chase card for one of the sets. That would be pretty cool because he's just. I remember at the reveal, it was on Pokemon Day. I was at Orlando Collecticon in a hotel room with Old School and Pallet Town, and I just saw on my phone that like the reveal video was out, so I popped it up on the TV. And when I first saw Quaxley, I'm just like, that's my guy. That's my guy right there. So yeah.
That's going to be the most popular Pokemon of all time. And Gakule says, question, assume all booster packs from 1999 to 2022 are widely available today at $5 a pack. No FOMO. Get rid of FOMO. And you get to open 5 packs. Which packs would you open from 5 to 1?
You want to go first on this one?
Oh my God. I mean, okay. Money. So we're taking all value out of everything. We're taking the value out of the cards, like every single thing. Like, what do I just purely as just like the cards themselves, what would be fun to open? Okay. So in no particular order, I'm gonna choose Emerging Powers #1. No, I'm just joking. Sorry. Let's do, gosh, that's such a hard one. I'm gonna do so. Okay, so in no particular order. I'd like to open some Skyridge. I love the commons and uncommons and all of that set. It's one of my favorite sets, top to bottom. Plasma Blast, Supreme Victors, Team Up, and Brilliant Stars, because I haven't opened up any yet.
It's really tough for me because like the sets that I like most, I generally have opened most of.
Yeah.
So those would be the easy answers, except for that I've already experienced them a ton. So I'd want to do ones that I've opened less. And one of my goals when I got back into the hobby was to open a box of everything. And I did that. So I don't know how many people, I don't know how common that is, but I've opened packs from every single set.
Yeah, it's not common.
That's a pretty uncommon thing. I don't know if that's like a 1% uncommon thing. Am I in like the
definitely
like, yeah. So I'm probably pretty atypical in that. But there's a lot of them that I only opened like once because when I did it, Neo Destiny First Edition was very expensive. I like that set a lot. So maybe that would be one of them.
Yeah, it's a great set.
I agree with Sky Ridge too. I only opened one box of that. Like I loved Aquapolis as well. I opened 2 or 3 boxes of Aquapolis because they just happened to be available at the time that I was buying them. And so Neo Destiny, Sky Ridge, EX era, probably like Unseen Forces, and maybe Team Rocket Returns. So now I'm up to 4. Call of Legends maybe for my 5th one. Just because most of the super modern stuff I've done so much, except like I haven't even opened Brilliant Stars yet myself, but I just know that I'm going to be able to continue doing that for a while when and if I want to. Mason estimates that it's like 1 out of 1,000 people, 0.1%.
I would be surprised if it was that high. Who have opened every box?
And I didn't open. I mentioned this in a recent video I did last week with the old card shop. I didn't open like 36 packs. I wasn't that crazy. I opened all the heavies from most of the boxes, and then I retained an art set or 2 for myself for a sealed pack collection, and then I sold them. I helped fund a lot of other people's sealed pack collection.
Have you opened every box or just WotC or every box?
Every box.
Yeah. I don't think PokeRev's opened every box, I think he said. I think he's missing one.
He recently did. Yeah, I think he did recently talk about, I think he did one for the first time pretty recently.
It could just be on stream. He might have opened it personally, but to really open every box, I think that we're talking, there could only be, a few hundred people in the world who've opened every single box.
I would think more than that. I don't know. I would think there's a few hundred people who never got out of Pokemon, and just maybe not
every box.
Yeah, like
I would have to open a whole booster box. We're not talking about pack. I'm not talking about one pack. I'm talking about a whole booster box.
But that's the thing. I didn't open like the EX eras. I opened the 12 heavies. Maybe a couple of them they didn't weigh that easy, and I opened 16 or 18 packs. But I didn't open 36 packs straight of all of those sets.
But even if it's 10,000, there are millions of people who collect Pokemon cards. So,
Yeah, it's definitely like I'm going to do a video on it at some point, revisiting the prices that I paid, the dates that I have all the empty boxes. Snorlax is going to have to move over here. He's going to have to watch from the other side of the room. But behind me, I'm going to have like my pile of opened boxes, and then recap that whole journey, because that's one of my greatest experiences in the hobby, like going back and doing all that.
Someone's at let's see. Do we worry about, like, Mitch says, now that we're public figures, do we worry about personal security and doxing ourselves when we buy and sell cards, our address getting out there?
Yeah, that was just in my recent podcast as well. Who did you say asked it? I wonder if it was the same person.
Mitch.
Okay, different person then, I think. But somebody said how they sell on eBay. They have a pretty decent sized eBay business, and they're contemplating creating a YouTube channel, but they had some hesitation of tying the two, because then it puts their face and their name with their eBay business. Would there ever be repercussions if they said something wrong or something someone didn't like on eBay? I know that other people have talked about having some actual pretty bad experiences with just bluntly crazy people getting crazy about things. And PO boxes,
crazy like, people, no.
Yeah, I mean, PO boxes using just your first name, going by whatever your business name is. But at the end of the day, if people want to find you, they will. It's not increasingly difficult. It's something that, it's just a scary thing to think too deeply about. But generally speaking, it's fairly rare that people get too drastic with that, I think.
Yep. Nothing to add. Yeah, PO box.
Yeah.
PO box, keeping your stuff at different locations, not unnecessarily giving out your info too much to every single person, protecting it to some extent. But again, just as Dan said, it's out there, there's limits. So
yeah.
Pikachu says, what's the better art, Shining Gyarados or Crystal Lugia? Also, Dan, if you had to guess what Eevee, go ahead first, and then I'll ask the second question.
Shining Gyarados for me. I loved Crystal version, and the Lake of Rage, that red Gyarados first encounter with a shiny Pokemon.
Hands down, it's not even close. It's not even ballpark.
Yeah, same.
Actually, I should have answered Shining Gyarados instead of Base Set Alakazam as the best art in the hobby, because that's actually what I think. I forgot about that card.
Yep.
It's the best card in the hobby. It's the best art in the hobby, I think.
Yeah, I put that in my top 3 or top 5 one of the times I was asked that. Probably some of the other ones would change, but that one I wouldn't forget. That is a beautiful, iconic card to me.
Dan, if you had to guess what Eevee was whispering in your Snorlax's ear, what would it be?
I have no idea. Pikachu asked multiple times, and
hard-hitting questions.
More serious questions came up, so I just kept straying from that one. But he's like, if you had to move a Snorlax, but you couldn't use a Master Ball or a Pokeflu, what would you do? Eevee's probably whispering the answer to that question into Snorlax's ear. I guess that's my answer.
Oh my God. Someone in Discord last night, I forget who it was, and I won't say their name to put it on class, but they were like, we were talking about our Grail cards, and his Grail card was my Shadowless Zapdos that I pulled from when I was a kid, from my first holo. It's that's terrifying. Gonna hunt me down and get that card.
That specific one.
Specific.
Not just a Shadowless Zapdos, your Shadowless Zapdos. Oh God.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Yeah, we were having a blast last night. We were getting deep into crypto last night. Deep into crypto. Watching a bunch of ridiculous, hilarious videos on it. So we got about 10 minutes or so left tonight, guys. If anyone wants to, any more questions or topics, comments.
Johnny Boy wants you to talk about your ideal museum. So maybe what would be some of the contents of it? Maybe the layout, That would be an interesting thing to touch on, I think.
So Mile High Comics has like a humongous warehouse basically, where he basically showcases his collection, and he has like a million comics and comic related stuff there in this huge warehouse. I think that's sweet. Like what he's been able to accomplish. If you want to look up Mile High Comics for anyone out there, doing something like that for cards where there's some sort of business element to kind of keep the light on, but it's really there for like kids and families and adult collectors to kind of come and I want it to be not Pokemon, but TCG and cards broadly. So it'll have everything, from all the different TCGs, dead CCGs. It'll be heavy on that, but I also would like to include sports. I'd like to include, tobacco cards, even playing cards. Like I'm starting to get into like 1860s, 1850s, like really old stuff. Even starting to learn a little bit about like Revolutionary War playing cards and some French and Spanish playing cards from across the world. Like there's a ton of stuff that I think there's a great history. There's a lot of coolness and all that stuff. Wild West cards, Civil War cards, different, all sorts of army and war cards. And then there's just so much cool stuff out there. And obviously Pokemon will be a huge prominent, have a huge prominent position at this place. But my goal would be for people to come and learn very broadly about all of these things, and we would have people who could really teach, and educate. And so I like to think that all of my effort and work and learning about all this stuff, I'll be able to like apply into a museum someday and do write-ups. And I just think it'd be a really cool, fun project at some point in my life. And I would want to do it with a bunch of other people. It would be something I would partner with, a bunch of other people. And I've already had a lot of people reach out and say they'd love to be a part of that. They would donate cards to it, whatever, their time, their energy, their resources. So it's something that, we'll have to see. I mean, it's one of those things that could become a reality. Like if a bunch of people want to do it and we like decide and have free time within the next 10 years, or it'll be something that's more of like a 20, 30, I don't know. So
maybe down the line, one of these major vaults, PWCC or eBay, will create some component where, because they already have billions of dollars, probably PWCC in high-end collectibles and stuff stored. It would be cool if someday some component got worked into it. Maybe you should go reach out to them and try to create some partnership thing, and starting with a really strong basis. That would be really cool though, someday, if something like that comes together.
I've just always, I made this channel because I wanted content like this. I want to make that museum, so I have a place to go and hang out. It's very much that, and I think a lot of people, feel the same way and would love that type of stuff. Marty asks, what are our thoughts on Radiant Pokemon? The new Radiant versions.
I've seen a couple pictures, and I've read from someone that the pictures don't quite do them justice. I'm picturing the Greninja that I saw. I try to not look at like too many spoilers, but I end up seeing them here and there. I'm excited for a new style. I'm gonna be interested to hold them in hand. I will say though that like the amazing rares, I had heard that the pictures don't do them justice, and then that was very much the case, at least in my experiences. Like when I first got them in hand, I really love amazing rares. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's cool, all the innovation, and like I said earlier, they can draw these Pokemon that we love in so many different fashions and so many different styles.
Yeah, it seems to be, I mean, people didn't like the Prism cards, but the Prism cards were, their attempt at this, the Prism cards, then the break cards, your amazing rares, these cards that can come in the reverse holo slot. Does this card come in the reverse holo? Do you know?
I don't know for sure. I feel like I read something about 2 per box, but yeah, I'm not positive.
Okay. And not sure if it's reverse holo or, reverse slot.
Not sure.
But yeah, two per box would be in line, roughly with amazing rares, or like two to three, 2 to 4 sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, very cool, very very good. So I don't see any more questions here right now. Oh, now they're coming. All right, I think last question of the night. If someone wants to throw one more that's really good, we may do it, but probably last one. Mike asks, let's see. Question: when would you say the interest in Shadowless started? Because I believe in the past it was seen as a niche. The tale of Shadowless.
Quickly tying up that last one. People, you say Booyah did say that they are in the reverse slot, and there are approximately 2 per box. Just to tie that up.
Yeah, so it's just the same. They're keeping it going basically.
Yep. So yeah, Gary was the big push behind getting PSA to recognize the variant, and I believe the term Shadowless was his own personal doing. When exactly that happened, I don't remember the timeline. I was back into the hobby in 2014. I'm pretty sure Shadowless was being recognized by that point, so it happened sometime prior to that. I don't know when.
I used to know.
I feel like I've probably read or heard that information before, but yeah, it predated my direct involvement in the hobby, so it's hard to say. You'd probably have to go back to the 0 cert era or the early 2 cert era, but they used to just encapsulate and authenticate Shadowless cards as just 1999 Pokemon game, labeled just like unlimited.
I have some. I think I have like 10 or so. Like I have quite a few.
It wouldn't shock me if the occasional one still gets through today, being labeled like as unlimited. So there's probably some 4 certs, some 6 certs of Shadowless limited, labeled as unlimited. But yeah, it's one of those things that used to be really niche, and then it made it more into the mainstream because PSA started recognizing it.
Yeah.
One thing that intrigues me, and full disclosure, partially because I have a decent amount of the product, but base 4th print is even more niche, and it took even much longer. Within the past year, PSA started recognizing the variant. So that one really intrigues me. If and when that'll ever get more legs behind it, because as of today, like I sold some base 4th, both pre-labeling and post-labeling, for a decent premium to base unlimited, but nowhere near like Shadowless or first edition.
Yep. Yeah, 4th print should be interesting over time. Yeah, nothing to add on that. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I wish I could remember. When you're in this hobby long enough, you like forget so much stuff that you like were taught at some point. It's just goes in and out. You can't keep it all in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun playing. We were on PK stream last night playing. I want to do games too on this channel. That was something I've been working on, but PK started doing it too. And did you see it? Were you there, Dan? I don't think you were there last night.
I wasn't, no.
But that was fun.
I have it in my watch later. I might watch it tomorrow, but what exactly was it?
It was like just trivia, like not price market stuff, all like knowing your sets and Pokemon and specific cards and stuff. It was crazy. The chat was so knowledgeable. Like it was just like every single time we would put it up, like 6 people would just like write the answer immediately. And like there was like some, real like fairly niche stuff. So it was pretty interesting. Got some knowledgeable people.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on, man. Good hanging out and talking.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
We will be announcing soon the Patreon date for this month. I'm sure we'll figure that out this week and announce it for y'all. And otherwise, just thanks everyone for hanging out. It's been really fun.
Yeah. Chat was very lively. A lot of great questions as always.
Yeah.
Always appreciate being invited onto these, and then the interaction with the chat, keeping them lively, keeping us on our toes too.
That's a blast.
Yep.
Yeah, we love you guys. All right. As far as my channel, nothing too much to plug. I'm going to be doing more videos than before, though. I'm going to try to be doing a decent amount of lives, maybe some videos. I've had some topics I kind of want to cover, but I honestly, I love just covering it within the live. I know it's not the best for everyone out there because some people just love like 12-minute videos. They get directly to things, and this forces you to watch a long thing to get pockets of new things I want to talk about. But I love the live chat and just hanging out and doing it in this sort of long format conversational style. I just enjoy it so much more. So,
It's my favorite content to make and consume, but
yeah.
I do myself, I'm doing like 2 or 3 videos a week, depending on the week. I'm trying to do more consistent content, just showing what's coming through my hands, what collections I've bought, what big sales I've made. I've got a lot of like just general topics too that I want to continue to cover.
Yeah.
I've got a backlog of dozens of topics that someday will become videos, but some of them are just a lot. Like some of them, it's like, this is going to be half a day of putting together a spreadsheet, or half a day of
For sure.
combing through data and putting it all together. And the really expansive stuff I save for Patreon, part of it because 3-hour lives are bad enough, but if I make one spreadsheet that I try to talk about for 3 hours alone in a YouTube video, that's going to do nothing. That's a lot of work for nothing. So yeah.
All right. Well, anything on your channel that people should be looking forward to this week?
This week is it's all about modern this week, which I do
Oh,
a decent amount of business in modern, but I don't talk about it a ton. I show the PSA graded returns, a lot of modern promos and stuff, but talking about the way my business interacts with modern, my strategies on how I treat that inventory that's replenishable versus how I treat older inventory. And some old inventory is very replenishable. I mean, if you're talking about, I probably have one close to me, but PSA graded non-hollow WotC cards, those are replenishable. But yeah, just talking about the aspects of the business side of it more.
sweet. I will look forward to those videos. And yeah, thanks guys. And we will both see you all again soon.
Yep. Catch you all later.
Take care, everyone.